2023 wasn't a good year for the Carolina Panthers, but I'm trying to make 2024 a better one for myself. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto options, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip that overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Head to factormeals.com/C350 and use the promo code C350 to get 50% off. That's code C350 at factormeals.com/C350 to get 50% off.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
What's the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy Tony Dunn, a.k.a. The Professor. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. Tonight's show, let's hope Baker may not see the football fields, as Cody Lashney has been firing shots at Panthers Twitter. We're going to have to wheel him out of the way of the ricochets tonight and hope that we don't get hit in the process. We got some fun things to talk about, from odds on who will be the first NFL coach to be fired, potential NFL free agents, and a little nostalgia play for you. If you go and check out TikTok or YouTube Shorts, you can see I put up a video, the Hot Tub Time Machine video of what could be the best wide receiver, Panthers wide receiver touchdown. We're going to go through some questions about most overrated, underrated players in the past, best running back if Christian McCaffrey were to retire, and some other fun kind of nostalgic questions as we try to weather the doldrums of the no NFL news cycle. But that's a good thing, Cody Lashney. Is no news is a good thing right now. That means we haven't heard about any injuries. We haven't heard about any arrests. And at this point, in your opinion, if I could speak, if you allow me to put some words in your mouth, we haven't heard about the Panthers trading for Baker Mayfield just yet. So welcome to the show, Cody Lashney, my wheel man. How you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. Listen, if the only newsworthy thing is that I'm starting shit on Twitter, dude, it's a good day, man. There's nothing too much to complain about. Listen, it's another Tuesday night. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. On Tuesday nights, there's nowhere I'd rather be than on this podcast, chilling with my boys, hanging out with the best damn Panther fans in all of YouTube, Tony Dunn. You know him and love him. It's our man, Drew, ATX19, Dan Floyd, Heels Panthers, James Island Panther, Jay Prey, Jeremy Clancy, Joey the Blind Panther Esquivel, KPM, Lynn Leonhardt. What's up, Lynn? Matt Knows Nothing, Off Grid, Panther Gal 73, Panther Pickle, Kenneth, what's up? Rockhead 81, Shinobi CJ, the Nine Lives Panther Podcast, Tim Estes, Underground West, Tony Dunn. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
CK in the house. How are you, my friend?
Man, listen. You want to hear something that's going to get you excited? 53 days until our first preseason game.
Ooh.
53. That means we're probably a month away from training camp. So listen, it's not tomorrow, but it's around the corner, and we're going to have some stuff to talk about. We're going to see plenty enough content coming out of the Panthers locker room, and the reporters and everything like that are going to probably be dropping a lot of bombs over the next couple of weeks. But Listen, at least we dodged the bullet of Deshaun Watson, who we have some news to talk about today about as well.
Yeah.
Yoy.
Deshaun Watson settled 20 out of 24 accusations or civil suits, I guess you would say. A man who said he would not settle because he was innocent.
Yep.
Has settled. But, you know, I mean, I think he's at this point trying to expedite the decision making for his upcoming season. And good gracious, I'll tell you, this is a good news that just didn't work out for us. So we'll have a lot to talk about tonight. You can call into the show at 252-228-5098. That's 252-228-5098. Be a part of the longest running Panthers podcast. We want to hear your thoughts on the NFL. On the Panthers going forward, will Matt Rule be the first coach fired? All of that. But we got to start with Cody Lashney tearing up the streets, the Twitter streets. What's happened is, you know, there's been a lot of unrest in the Panthers community of somehow I got notifications last night that like the Big Cat's channel and them are having a breakup, and they were having dueling live videos talking junk about each other. So you had that going on, and then today Cody Lashney out there just blasting like 6-shooters everywhere. What was going on? And it had to do about Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, man. So listen, I'm a fan of this comedian named Andrew Schultz. He does a podcast called Flagrant, and he does this thing called All Feelings, No Facts, right? I don't have any factual information to present to anyone here, but what I do have is a damn strong feeling. And what I said is there is no difference between Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. The only reason you think different is that Sam played behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL since he was drafted, and Baker played behind one of the best offensive lines in football since he was drafted. And boy, I kicked the hornet's nest, man. People got pissed off. And look, I understand from a stats perspective, yeah, Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback if you just look at it from a stats perspective. However, I'm not doing that. I think Baker Mayfield is less mobile than Sam Darnold. I don't think he has a bigger arm than Sam Darnold. And I think we would be having a very different conversation about his ability as a quarterback if he was forced to play with the same kind of players as Sam Darnold. I know one thing, you know, Sam might not be a great player. And trust me, I am not saying that he is. But what I am saying is that there aren't a whole lot of stories about, you know, receivers missing Baker Mayfield or players talking about how fantastic he is. And I really think a lot of this is situational. And he was on a damn good football team. And this seemed to rub people the wrong way, man. I don't know what it is about me, Tony, but I push people's buttons, I guess.
I am a little interested in where the Baker Mayfield love comes from. Do you think the Baker Mayfield love comes from among Panther fans, right? There is a group that I feel thinks that Baker Mayfield significantly makes this team a lot better. In fact, and this kind of Baker Mayfield makes us a playoff team. I've seen this from I think the same person, but I feel like I see it from a lot of people, is that also Jimmy Garoppolo makes the Panthers a playoff team. And I think that the Panthers could be a playoff team, but I think that's the certainty of that statement is a little bit, I don't know, haughty, arrogant in a way. I just don't feel it as much. Do you think that do you think it's just because they don't believe in Sam Darnold that Baker Mayfield is that attractive?
I think a lot of it has to do with Sam Darnold, but I also think they look at a quarterback that has been to the playoffs before. And I hear this a lot.
True.
That, hey, Baker Mayfield has quarterbacked the team to the playoffs. He won in Pittsburgh. But I'm like, okay, how is that an indicator of him elevating a football team, though, because it's clear that that's what the Panthers have been missing from the quarterback position is a real leader, somebody that can actually elevate the talent around them when the talent stops working for them. And my argument is that Baker Mayfield has had multiple opportunities to do exactly that and hasn't done it at an elite level. And then on top of that, he does have just as much of an injury history as Sam Darnold, and that's proven. And then you're having to trade assets for him. You're going to have to give up something to get Baker Mayfield. And it absolutely makes no sense to me. And by the way, last Tuesday, I made the comparison to Case Keenum. Case Keenum quarterbacked a playoff team to the NFC Championship game on a Minnesota Vikings football team that went 13-3. But yet I didn't hear people.
Well, you could make the same
for
case for
Keenum.
Kirk Cousins, right? Or a similar case for Kirk Cousins is he's taken the Minnesota Vikings kind of deep. That year that they had the rule with the Saints. Do you remember the Saints or was that Keenum that year?
That was Case Keenum.
Yeah, that was Case Keenum.
I don't think they've been to the playoffs since Kirk Cousins has been there, has he?
Really? I just remember this is when the Minnesota Vikings destroyed us actually not destroyed us because we tied it up late.
It went to overtime.
Right. Is that because Sam Darnold had his best drive with like 1 minute less than a minute left. But then Kirk Cousins carved us up in overtime, and it just was over. It felt like and I feel like a lot of the heat you were getting is coming from the 4-man rush. And I'm not trying to name drop, but I mean, it was just true.
Always.
It was just true.
Well, the problem is that the heat, like that, for the Baker Mayfield conversation, right? The heat isn't coming from they're not coming with that doesn't make any sense. They're coming with just completely generic statements. Like there was one person who wanted to quote retweet, "This shows you people don't know anything about football," but has no counterpoint. Like nobody can really state a counterpoint that makes sense. They can cite one good year and that's it. And I don't think there's anybody here advocating for Sam Darnold. The problem is right now, we are so hungry for a quarterback. We see a guy like Baker Mayfield as maybe we see the exact same thing we saw in Sam Darnold, and that is maybe he just hasn't gotten a fair shake, right? Maybe he's able to do something good on this team. Maybe they just weren't we've played this game, guys. We've played it 2 or 3 times already, and we've failed every time. Now it's time we move to a position where, maybe we need to go with a guy who hasn't had the stink of a bad team or a bad year, a bad history. Let's be real about it. The dude is on his rookie contract still, and he's a first round pick, and they're not picking up a contract. They're not extending him because they're going with another guy. They would rather have gone with a guy who had so many unknown questions in Deshaun Watson than go with Baker Mayfield,
who might also be suspended for a year,
an entire season.
Yeah, it is strange. I feel like the Browns are kind of in the win now mode, and they think that Baker Mayfield got them to the playoffs, but that's all that's going to happen. I really feel like Baker I don't know. It's kind of like an Alex Smith acquisition. I know it's not the best comparison because Alex Smith was very careful with the ball. Alex Smith was almost more a little bit like Teddy Bridgewater, but he did get more aggressive, pushing the field down pushing the ball downfield when he was with Andy Reid and some different things.
But I don't before they moved on from him.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like this is that people saw this is where we're gonna be. This is where we can get. Now, if getting to the playoffs is all you want, then that's fine. I mean, then Baker Mayfield might be able to do it, and I'm going to put this up once I end the poll. I want everybody to go ahead and vote in the first poll of the night, which is what is your most memorable wide receiver touchdown in Panthers history? I put up 3 options. Steve Smith, 2004 versus the Rams, overtime to win it, to move on to the NFC Championship. Steve Smith, 2004 in the Super Bowl versus New England to spark really one of the best blow for blow Super Bowls that you can get, pound for pound, one of the best Super Bowls. I think it was 38. And Greg Olsen in 2015 versus Seattle. I saw a salesman put up Dominic Hickson and the Saints is a notable mention. I think the Ted Ginn I think it was Miami where he caught one out the back of the end zone was a notable mention for me. You guys can drop notable mentions in the chat room, or if you think something, go ahead and vote in this, because the next poll I'm going to put up is, do the Panthers have a better chance of making the playoffs with Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo? Right? It was like, is the team, which one are they better with? And that would be an interesting. Now, I still don't get this. Why is the injury for Baker Mayfield as well as Jimmy Garoppolo non-issues for people when they're evaluating the addition of these players? Both of these guys have, and they're throwing shoulder injuries, I believe. Well, I think maybe Baker's isn't.
I think Baker's was his opposite.
Yeah, you're right, because he played through it.
Yeah.
Here is
still relevant though. It's not like your point changes. He's hurt. He has a very clear history of getting hurt in an NFL season.
I wouldn't hate Baker Mayfield on this team. I would not hate it. I do think I disagree with you that him and Sam Darnold are the same player. I think mentally Baker Mayfield has an edge that Sam Darnold doesn't. I think that Sam Darnold we're on the precipice of him being broken mentally, and that being the ultimate problem. The problem may be with Darnold between the ears, because it's this panic weirdness where it's like, oh gosh, it's like once it starts to go wrong, it just goes worse and worse and worse. It just snowballs out of control. So he misses a pass or throws a pick, and then it just continues to deteriorate throughout the game. And then that leads from game to game. So with him, that becomes a season-on deterioration. You saw this early on when I think it was one of the plays he fumbled in a game where, it wasn't all his fault. He was getting pressured like crazy, but he fumbled. And then remember, he like threw it straight to a defensive end or like underhanded it straight to the other player. So is that, to me, I'm not ready to say that they're same. I think Baker Mayfield is notably better because of the mental edge, the moxie, the guts. And that's what you kind of need. I think Baker has an ability to shrug this stuff off and shrug the criticism off. So I'll give him that. But here, the concern for me, and this is where I'm going to side on Cody, is I have no desire to bring in Baker Mayfield because I'm scared. What happens if we go and win 9 games? I said this last week on this show. You go trade for Baker. Say you give a 4th round pick, 5th round. Say you get a 5th round pick for Baker Mayfield, and they eat some of his salary. And you go and win 9 games. What do you do then? What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you and so are we talking about Baker Mayfield being the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers for the next 3 years? And that's why it's not really a great discussion just to say apples to apples, Sam Darnold to Baker Mayfield. Because if Sam Darnold goes out and wins 9 games next year, guess who's not going to be the quarterback in 2023? Sam Darnold.
Yeah. And also, by the way, in my own defense real quick here on one thing, like I said earlier, I said all feelings, no facts. Now, it doesn't mean that it couldn't end up at some point proven to be factual. But, again, I know that I'm going to be in the minority that people think that Baker Mayfield is a marked improvement over Sam Darnold. And if you think that, I understand I'm probably not going to change your mind. But you did also mention the moxie. And that's something that keeps on getting mentioned. They're like, oh, well, Baker Mayfield, he's got the attitude. He's got the moxie. He's ready to go and kick some ass. Well, I'm like,
chip.
Okay.
He's got the chip.
But can't I make the opposite argument? And that I feel like whenever you see, for the past 4 years, whenever you would see like a trending or a viral Baker Mayfield clip, it always seemed to be a reporter pissing off Baker Mayfield for asking a very legitimate question, and then him getting all butthurt and in his feelings and mad and upset about it. So it's like on the basis of that alone, I kind of disagree that this moxie thing is like something that benefits him. Like he was the number one pick.
You don't remember
draft.
Jimmy Clausen that well then, because the opposite of moxie is terror.
And by the way, I think I think people, and you included, are saying Sam is like that. That Sam has none of that moxie. Sam has none of that drive. And I agree with you, like 1000%. I agree with you on that. And again, like that's why I think the fact that the Panthers are right now having to debate between Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold is the perfect statement on where this organization actually is right now as a football team and just how badly this entire thing has been mismanaged. And the last thing, and then I'll pass it to CK here. It's funny that you mentioned Sam when you pretty much just like passed it to a player right in front of him. So I'm going back and forth with a few of the guys from 4-Man Rush today. And one of the Baker Mayfield interceptions was literally that. It was Baker Mayfield playing the New England Patriots, and he literally pitches the football to a defender right in his face. So it's just funny that you mention it like that because it leads to my whole point is Baker Mayfield has a lot of wild misses, just like Sam. He has a lot of pocket inefficiencies, just like Sam. And he has a bunch of injury histories, just like Sam. So it only goes to further my point that Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold are far more comparable prospects than people are giving me credit for when I make that comparison. And that's all I think, man.
Listen, it's a very valid statement. Pre-game or pre-show rather, I brought up the comparison of Mitchell Trubisky, right?
Yeah.
Mitch Trubisky had one good season as well, right? And you can argue that he had a good season with a worse team than Baker Mayfield had. But you don't see a bunch of teams out there pining over about to trade for Mitch Trubisky. Nobody did. They ended up having to release him, and then he went to the Bills. And now he's got a job in the Steelers nation, which isn't a guaranteed starting position either. And so that's kind of where we're at. Like, I don't know that we're in a position where you can, be picky, but at the same time, I think it's fair to say that it's not going to be Baker. Right? I'm just tired of this carousel of doing the exact same thing. We did the same thing with Sam Darnold. We did the same thing with Teddy Bridgewater. We've done the same thing so many times. We're just so hungry for a quarterback that we're putting ourselves in a position to potentially be in a deeper and deeper hole than we already were. We dodged one bullet with Deshaun Watson. It's time not to continue to dodge these bullets instead of having to continue to have them grow and grow and grow like they have been.
Yeah, it'll be, and that is the truth, is that it's just switching out one kind of defective part for another defective part. But each one has had its own kind of nuanced problem to it. Teddy Bridgewater's not a trade, but it was the longevity of his contract. The problem is just this, is they went and got Teddy Bridgewater to do what to have this bridge, and then they gave up on it. They're the ones that gave up on it. Is that, sure, we didn't like them. Sure, we didn't love them. Part of that, again, goes back to the Cam nostalgia. You're moving on from your greatest love to the rebound date or the rebound girlfriend, and nothing they can do, no matter what, is ever going to live up to it, right? But it was really not Teddy Bridgewater's play that was problem. It was the contractual problem, right? It's like, why is the length of the contract and the amount? So that was a big deal. Then you give up assets for Sam Darnold, right? You get a broken kind of part, a team that's not. We got outdone by the Jets. Like, the Jets are going to get a quarterback, and somehow they fleece us for more than we want. And I guess it's because they knew we were quarterback hungry going after Stafford and all of that jazz. So it was the losing of assets. With Baker Mayfield, I don't think it's going to be necessarily a bunch of assets we lose, but I think it will be time that's going to be the problem. It's just the continued time of what it could be. Now, if you go and get Baker Mayfield, it doesn't work, you can go on and say that Matt Rule's not going to have a job, and then it doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and bring that up. Cody, can you bring up the tweet I think it was from AG Sports. I can't remember who. I think I put it in the direct
sports
chat.
book thing.
Yeah, the sports book.
Yeah.
Is a tweet came out today, or at least the odds, Vegas odds for head coach to be fired in the NFL. And this kind of it relates to all this. If Baker Mayfield comes in and they don't do well, Matt Rule will be fired. If the Panthers don't do well, there's a good chance Matt Rule will be fired. And that's what Vegas is betting on. Right now, he is leading the odds. Matt Rule is plus 300 to be the first coach fired in 2022, followed by Mike McCarthy, Pete Carroll, Frank Wright, Ron Rivera, Kevin Stefanski. Then it goes Dan Campbell, Cliff Kingsbury, Mike Vrabel, Robert Saleh, Arthur Smith. So like those guys are way down on the list. So you're talking about this is the guys are in the range of Rule and then McCarthy, and then the odds double to Carroll, Reich, Rivera.
Isn't it kind of crazy that Carroll and Reich have better odds to be fired than Rivera?
Well, Ron has made the playoffs once. That whole franchise is such a disaster right now when it comes to maybe the owner getting kicked out. You know, I mean, it's like such a shit show. You remember when we had the Greg Hardy incident, the Greg Hardy stuff, and he was on the commissioner's non-exempt list and stuff. And then we had the sale of our team by Jerry Richardson, and Ron Rivera became the spokesman, the face, the guy that just was the liaison to the world. You did that. Yeah. Ron Rivera did that through a lot. He did that with Trent Williams already with the Commanders. He did that in the name change from the Redskins or Washington football team to the Commanders. Yeah. Now he's doing it with
what's his name?
His defensive
Jack
coordinator, Jack Del Rio. Yeah. It just seems like this is like he's the only good thing. He's like the only good thing in Washington. But I do, yeah. I think that the Seattle is. I think that Pete Carroll's just old.
Yeah, and that's probably why. But I mean, even still, I figure he won a Super Bowl, went to another one. You know, he's won more than Ron, and he's been to one more than Ron. So I don't know. I think that's interesting. And by the way, like boys, this goes back to exactly what I was saying, that this is a Matt Rule thing. There's all this mystery about who's the one actually like wanting and campaigning for Baker Mayfield. And this comes back to, if you're someone that believes it's anyone other than Matt Rule, you're being willfully naive. I mean, come on. Like, we're talking about a lame duck head coach who has the best odds to be fired and is in the third year, and he hasn't produced over 5 wins in a single season. Like, this is a move that only a coach makes when they're in the throes of desperation and they have no other answers available to them, and their starting quarterback is the guy that they bet on last year in Sam Darnold. And then we're supposed to believe that if we're going to do it again, the results are going to somehow be different. Nah, man, that's insanity right there. Tony, I wanted to highlight some comments that I really liked in the chat. Panther Pickle says, let's be real, Panther fans choose between Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield is like picking which pile of shit you have to eat. Horse shit, Baker, or cow shit. Sam said as only Panther Pickle can. Shout out, Kenneth. Thomas Thomason says, is it me or does Cody look like Jack Sparrow tonight? My mom says I look like Chris Cornell from Soundgarden, which either way, pretty handsome dudes. So thank you. I appreciate you. And Lynn Leonhardt says Mayfield might mean little to no time for Corral, which might in turn mean we lose an opportunity to see what he has. Thank you, Lynn. And the reason why I favorited this post is because if we do trade for Baker Mayfield, and for whatever reason a really good top prospect quarterback is sitting there for the Panthers next year, neither Baker Mayfield or Matt Corral is going to be enough of a reason to stop the Carolina Panthers from drafting their quarterback of the future. And by the way, realize that we're probably going to be doing so with a brand new head coach under that scenario as well. So, there's that, man.
I want to go ahead and encourage everybody to call in at 252-228-5098 and jump in the poll. Who would the 2022 Carolina Panthers be better with? I did not see this coming, Cody. I was originally going to put the poll up as just Jimmy G and Baker Mayfield, but I said, why not just throw Sam Darnold? Sam Darnold is winning the poll, and I have not voted in it. 37% of people say that the Panthers would be better with Sam Darnold. 33% Jimmy G. Baker Mayfield pulling up lame. Do you think are they trolling? Are they trolling Baker? Is this true? Do you think does the chat really think we could be better with Sam Darnold?
Well, I mean, I also think part of our fans, if you
we lost Cody.
Agree with us.
Oh, there he is.
I don't know. I'm really not sure, man. I think the opinions are all over the place. Like, that's another thing about this, guys. There really is no consensus about any of this shit. There's so much guessing. Like, well, is Sam going to be a better player behind a better offensive line? Could Baker Mayfield make it work with DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey? It's like there's so many unknowns that every answer is technically relevant. I
think at the end of the day is that, like, Sam Darnold can't be worse than he was last year with an improved offensive line, right? Because this is not a defense of his play, but last year's offensive line across the board was just horrendous. In the past, we had I could single out people like Matt Khalil or Byron Bell, but it was really all the way to Taylor Moton. Like, I mean, Taylor Moton was the only person you couldn't shit on. The whole line stunk. The whole line stunk. And even when you hear people saying, oh, Michael Jordan played pretty, like when we say pretty well, it is like this is like, it's like you're lucky if you eat that the horse shit you ate actually had a magic mushroom in it, or the cow shit. So it was like you still had to eat cow shit and you maybe got one hallucinogenic stem in it.
At least you got the trip balls.
or just a little body buzz or something. But it was just bad. It was just like to the point. And I'm telling you, it was so bad. It's just like you saw people get knocked on their ass. I felt like people didn't move. Like it was almost like an old tabletop football game or hockey game. Remember when you used to have those like sliders and it was just like they couldn't move? I mean, people run right by them. And I'm not trying to defend Sam Darnold. He did not play well. He made a lot of errors. Nobody played well. Right. But that line was just like, it didn't look like an NFL line at all.
And I did think that even Taylor Moton kind of suffered because of it. Because everybody plays.
I agree.
Everybody, that whole unit is so dependent upon one another. Even Taylor kind of looked crazy from time to time.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think we've all, we all had this same argument multiple times about, when you're an offensive line, and I think it was a lot of it was in defensive Paradis in his first year was, there's only so much you can do, especially when you're the center of that, or when you're considered to be a leader, you then have to start worrying about whether people are picking up their assignments. If they're not, now you have to try to split that block and just, it never ends very well. So I agree. I think that you could be the best player on the field and still have a very, horrendous outcome with something like that. So, yeah.
Comment Carson 1, low-key Coldridge, Barnage, Stroud, the fourth makes us Super Bowl contenders. What do you think? First, he's using my government. He's using my mama's name. He's calling me Anthony.
He's saying Anthony.
I like that.
My mom used to do that with you too, and I'm like, Wow, you realize no one calls him Anthony.
You know, I can tell you one thing about Anthony is I use it at work. Like
Oh, do you?
anytime I need to be in a professional situation where I don't,
Yeah.
I need to kind of watch my demeanor, I mean, and we all, and look, is that the whole point of this podcast is I know I'm not going to do anything on this podcast that hopefully risks my job
Right.
or does some things like that. But it is a more casual situation and it's meant to be that way. It's
Right.
meant, I won't go as far as this, it's close to locker room talk without me trying to intentionally like grab people by the, you know what, as Donald Trump would say. But
That's what you have me for.
right but I mean, like, so I kind of know. And another thing is where I work at too is I've grown up in this area. Like I've always lived here. So there's a long history of me in this town with people and stuff. And I haven't always been professional. I've been a jerk kids. So I always like to know who I'm talking to. If you call me Tony, I feel like I can be loose. If you call me Anthony, I'm like putting the tie on and being like, all right.
Yep.
Yeah, button
up. To answer his question, though, so I haven't done my full deep dive evaluations on any of the players in the 2023 class yet. He's talking about C.J. Stroud, by the way, Ohio State quarterback. And as of right now, he's probably my number one rated quarterback. I also really like Will Levis out of Kentucky. He still needs some refinement, but he is a dual threat quarterback if there ever was one. I really like a few of the guys coming out. And by the way, like that's my point, Tony. Like, you heard all this year that this is not a good draft class for quarterbacks. That's next year. And when you start to do some digging, there really are a lot of names to look out for, man. Like I said, the guy from Kentucky, the quarterback from Miami, Van something or another, Bryce Young, which everybody's talking about a lot. Y'all have heard me kind of go on some minor tangents about him. I kind of think he's another Tua Tagovailoa, but that's for another day. So yeah, it makes me want to play Matt Corral even more this season because we should know what we have in him at the end of this year. So that way we know if we have a player that we're willing to bet on for the future. And I think that's important. And it's something that we kind of missed an opportunity to do last year fully with Brady Christensen at left tackle in a full-time circumstance.
I am surprised at how optimistic a lot of Panther fans are about this team this year.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that I think they're going to be terrible. I think that they should be better than they were last year. I expected them to be better last year than they were the year before. But they didn't take a step forward last year. They actually regressed last year from Matt Rule's first year. But there are a lot of people that keep saying, man, we're playoff team. We're playoff team. Like, hold up, wait a minute. Hold up, wait a minute, folks. Now, if I'm sitting here going, if we get 7 wins, that's a big improvement from this team. I know that you want to say that DJ Moore is a top 5 receiver in the league. I know you love that, folks. I know you love that. But look, my man scored 4 touchdowns a season. 4 touchdowns a season. It's like I love DJ Moore. I love him. But like right now, you're trying to tell me that our wide receiver core is one of the best, is a threat? Come on. It's DJ Moore and an unknown in Terrace Marshall Jr. and Robbie Anderson, the problem child right now, who is probably people give him more credit for being a good player than he probably really is. It's like he's kind of, I don't know. It's like he's supposed to be a number 2 or 3 type wide receiver. But like, here is the thing. We had a dog shit offensive line last year. And yeah, we added some cool pieces. It seems like Austin Corbett. We've got the center from the Ravens, like all these things. But you know what? They're all unknowns. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we haven't seen any of this shit on the field yet. We haven't seen, like, I mean, you can say, yeah, we've got a lock offensive lineman in, what's his name? Ekwonu. Yes. Yeah, we got this. But, like, this idea. I don't even know if our defense is straight intimidating. I mean, there's some pieces. There's some young, exciting pieces in J.C. Horn. There is Brian Burns, who we hope is going to like finally become one of the top defensive ends. But what part of our team screams confidence? I can see optimism, as in it's not going to be as bad as it was. I'm okay with that. But this idea that we're not that far from being a playoff team, I mean, yeah, every team is is one season away from being a playoff team. But I'm not sitting here looking at anything like, oh my God, we've got all new. I mean, we're saying this is, if that's the case, we're putting all of our eggs on in the McAdoo basket.
We really are. But it feels that, how long have we been saying that though, Tony? I think we even said last week too, that if there's this feeling that if the Panthers are good this year, it has a lot to do with Ben McAdoo and the changes that he's made to our offseason, or the changes that he's made to our offense over the course of this offseason. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And it's funny. I'm not even going to play a clip because we'll get demonetized. We had to find that out the hard way. But on the Pivot podcast, they just had Mike Tomlin on the show. And there was a clip floating around on Twitter of him talking about there are coaches that run towards the opportunity to coach, right? So he's talking about when he's looking at scouting reports, and you see a lot of guys talking about hand placement and different stuff dealing with technique. And he's like, oh, that doesn't bother me at all. That doesn't scare me at all, because that's an opportunity for us as coaches to take that player to the next level and show them all the areas that they're deficient in. Literally no one feels that way about Matt Rule. Matt Rule might be telling you that he's rushing towards an opportunity to coach you, but no, he's rushing for an opportunity for all of his assistant coaches to teach you up and refine you things. And you even said this, Tony, like, you're either an ultimate motivator or you're an ultimate X's and O's type of guy. And Matt Rule feels to be neither of those things. So when you hear Mike Tomlin say stuff like that, it's like, oh man, it's further evidence of where we are from a head coaching perspective. And like you said, when people are making all these grandiose statements about how good the Panthers are going to be, it's based on a lot of unknowns. We don't know.
All unknowns, bro.
Yeah.
All unknowns.
Like Hassan Reddick. We don't know what our line is going to look like minus Hassan Reddick. There's a whole bunch of different things that factor into this. The quarterback position. There's so many unknowns.
The whole reason they do this is J.C. Horn. It's the idea that J.C. Horn is the greatest player that got hurt. And look, he could be very, very good. He could be very good, but we haven't even. I want him to be good, but I'm not ready to bet.
Right.
I'm not ready to bet that the Panthers are like. It's not like, oh, we were just missing J.C. Horn. We have we don't know what the QB, and I think Lynn brings up a great point here with the offensive line, is that this offensive line could be a lot better, but still take time to gel. First of all, it's like, it can't be much worse. That's for damn sure. If it's any worse, then I'm fucking like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to only watch the defense. I'm going to go make food every time the offense is on the field. Yes. All right. Maybe, I guess adding Christian McCaffrey to the mix, we can incrementally go up. If we double our win total, we're still at 10, and that's backing it. That's not guaranteed to make the playoffs. And you could be a 10-win team and not be fantastic. I mean, so I hope I think the Panthers are going to be better. I do think the Panthers are going to be better. I expect them to be better. I expect every team, it doesn't matter what year it is, for them to be better than last year, especially when you're a 5-12 team, right? And see, again, J.C. Horn, a sure thing. Okay, he's a sure thing to be good. Okay, is he a sure thing to be healthy? Is he the reason, though, that you're going to say that this Panthers defense is going to be dominant? Because I don't want to hear this. We had a top 3 defense last year, and they just had too much on them. We don't know. We've got all new linebackers outside of Shaq Thompson. We've got new defensive, and there's nothing really the same about this team other than C.J. Henderson, J.C. Horn, Jeremy Chin, and Brian Burns, and Derek Brown, Shaq Thompson. That's what. All right, so okay, there's still a lot of other players that we got to have contribute. The number's 252-228-5098. That's 252-228-5098. Go ahead and shame these fools, and then we'll get into some calls.
Well, I mean, yeah, listen, we've been talking about Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, and we appreciate all of you for sticking around to this point. I'm sorry that we're almost, an hour into the podcast and we haven't gotten around to this yet. Sincerely, our apologies. If you ever bought one of those CamWows to help you absorb moisture, well, now would be the time to put those into action, because without further ado, here is the voice that makes them moist. It's our man, Cody Allen.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. We have T-minus 53 days until the Carolina Panthers play another game. Sure, it's preseason, but the reality is we're about to see Panthers play some football. So I have one thing to say to all you legends that have come in here. Subscriber shame if you haven't hit that like button. Over and out.
Subscriber shame. Hit that like button. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe. For every single time the C3 Panthers podcast goes live every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. and every Friday at 7 p.m. for the Friday Free For All. Hey, man, we take no weeks off. C3 podcast is year-round, here for the fans, by the fans. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. Tony Dunn, let's listen to what these people got to say in these cat calls.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
Hey guys, enjoy the show. And about this whole Baker Mayfield to Carolina situation, it makes absolutely no sense to bring him in other than to save Matt Rule's job. That's it. We've invested multiple picks in Sam Darnold, even though he's not good. We've still invested 3 picks in him. We've invested 3 picks in Corral. Run it with those guys, because so many Panthers fans who want to bring in Baker this year, it's such a short-sighted view. Panthers fans need to have a big picture view on this. All it does is muddy up the waters for the QB room of the future. So let's say Baker comes in and wins us 7 or 8 games, and we're flirting with the playoffs. We don't quite make it. Now what? Do you give him a 1-year franchise tag, which is going to be over $30 million? And oh, by the way, we're already $30 million over the cap for next year. And then we have to allocate $10 more million for our draft class. So it completely muddies up the water of the whole QB room moving forward in the future. And the only purpose of bringing him in is to save Matt Rule's job for 1 more year. That's it. That's all it is. There's no other logical explanation or good reason to bring him in. Thanks for taking my call, and y'all have a good night.
Man, I don't have the soundboard like Tony does, but if I did, I'd be playing the applause. Congratulations, caller. You're certified the man, dude. Literally everything that you just said is exactly everything that I've been saying, man. You hit the nail on the head. It muddies the waters. It makes our future quarterback situation far more unclear. We're trading for yet another unproven quarterback that we're having to trade assets to go and get. We're all excited about Matt Corral. For what? Just to us not have the opportunity to even see him in action and be behind both Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, neither of which are players that the fans can even give a damn about. That caller was fantastic. I love everything he had to say. There we
Hit
go.
him up with the applause.
Round
We got your applause. There you go. Numbers 252-228-5098. That's 252-228-5098. Let's continue. The callers want to talk about Baker.
Hey guys, this is Tyler. Love watching you guys. Love all the work you're doing.
Thank
Keep
you.
up with the
Spruce
work.
Pines, I
really
believe.
enjoy watching you. Just wanted to give my thoughts on the Baker Mayfield topic. My opinion is like Sam Darnold. I don't think any like you guys have been saying. I don't think anybody really is advocating for Sam Darnold. Nobody likes Sam Darnold. I think that's one of the main reasons why people argue about Baker Mayfield coming to the Panthers. But there's not really a significant upgrade that's worth it, I think, in the short term and long term.
Right.
Baker Mayfield, I think, can give us a 2 extra wins, maybe a 4 at the most, more than Sam. I think Sam can give us 5 or 6, possibly. So I think Baker could give us like 7, 8, maybe 9 wins, as far as comparing the seasons. But that's not really... Well, that's not something we want. I mean, what's the point of getting 5 wins versus 8 or 9, like you made in the playoffs? But it's not going to change anything. We have some cap space this year, but next year will be really tight in cap room. So if we're giving up a late round pick and Cleveland saying that they want to pay half of Baker's contract, so maybe give up a 5, 6, or 7th round pick and pay him $9 million, and it's not going to change anything really in the short term or long term. I just don't see why it would make sense for the Panthers to pick him. And I think that's what Cody's trying to say. I do think that Baker does bring a little bit extra to the table as far as leadership. And obviously he's taking the Browns to the playoffs, but he's not going to, I just don't see him really taking us to the playoffs with the team that we have. And he's so late with coming into the building, getting to know Ben McAdoo and the offense and the players. I just don't see it. It just doesn't make sense to me bringing him on. I just think we just need to suck it up with Sam Darnold one more year, move on from him. Hopefully Matt Corral can step in there later this year and show what he can do and show that he can possibly be the future. But I just don't see Baker Mayfield really making sense. So thank you guys. Love listening to you. Hope you have a good night.
Man, thank you. Another good call is that, again, that's the point we both, I think all three of us have been making a lot too. A lot of people, it's not even, again, if it's just a 1-to-1 basis, Baker and Sam Darnold, then sure, Baker Mayfield right now seems the better bet for the immediate return, right? Is that he's had more success. He doesn't completely seem broken mentally. He plays with a chip on his shoulder, right? And those are good things. And he's had success in the league, whether he's been on a better team or not. Sam Darnold just hasn't. And there's a lot of questions. So apples to apples, Baker is a superior player, but how superior is one question. Again, the second question goes to me is what happens if he's okay? Then what do you do? One is this: are you out of the quarterback range for a draft? Number one. No, is that, say you're picking 11th. Are you trading up to get a quarterback? Are you extending Baker Mayfield and trying to build a team with a quarterback that doesn't lose it for you necessarily? But Baker's had some tendencies to play poorly as well. It's not like he's the safe quarterback only, right? Is that he's not the guy that's like, oh, well, he won't lose it for you. There's been moments where he's lost it for those teams. So it's just kind of like, what are you going to do next? Even if it kind of works out, On top of that, I want to go to this as the cap question. I don't understand this, guys. This is the first caller said that we would be negative next year.
Yeah,
the second caller tells us that we'll be tight next year. I don't get it. What is happening? How do we have cap space this year but not next year? Whose contract is kicking in? Sam Darnold's comes off the books. Teddy Bridgewater's is completely off the books by then. I feel like we probably still got some money. We're probably paying him somehow. Like, who is it? Is it Christian McCaffrey's deal kicks in? We don't know what Brian Burns is. Like, we don't have who is the big deal. DJ Moore, does his go up some? I guess
it's all the people that we restructured. I think Robbie Anderson's on the books more. I think McCaffrey's on the books.
He's done after this year.
Let me pull
I'm
up.
gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna looking up over the cap because I like them.
All right. Yeah. I mean, that was to my understanding. The last time that I looked, we were around $5 million over the cap, I believe, and it had a lot to do with our restructures. All the restructures that we made. That's what a restructure is. You're kicking the can down the road.
Right, but I've only heard that with Shaq. The last person I heard that with was Shaq and maybe Taylor Moton. And Christian McCaffrey.
DJ Moore also just got paid. Dante Jackson just got paid. Like players got paid. And by the way, I wouldn't even worry about this too much. And I'm gonna mess up his last name. Forgive me. Amir. I believe it's Suleiman, the guy that's in charge of
the cap guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, he's very good at his job, and this doesn't.
Well, I call bullshit on that because we've never had a lot of money anyway, and he's always been the cap guy.
What I'm saying is that we have options available to us next year. So it sounds like
the Matsko thing. Remember when they used to tell us Matsko was the best offensive line coach in the world, and we never had a good offensive line? Well, Suleiman is the best cap guy, and we never had any cap money.
We have to give him credit when we had no money. And by the way, the Saints did this too, which should further show you that the salary cap is a myth. That they were able to restructure and get all of this room cleared on the event that we were going to land Deshaun Watson. The Saints did the exact same thing. So the only point that I'm trying to make is nobody should really be freaking out about the Panthers being $5 million over the cap next year.
Well, yeah,
because it's not like there's no way for us out of it.
Right.
All right. So they must have restructured Robbie. Really? How does he get that much money? That can't be right. That can't be right.
Restructured Pat Elflin also.
Robbie Anderson is still worth $20 million. That's crazy. Okay, so I guess if you do the simple just click over with no changes, right, is that all of a sudden, think about this, is you can't cut any, Robbie, Christian McCaffrey, Taylor Moton. See, that's where it is the restructure is going to come in on Taylor and DJ Moore then. They're going to have a lot of hit there, I guess. Gosh.
Yeah.
There's going to be, but you know what? The team is going to be completely different by that point.
Yeah.
I think. I'm not really worried about that, but that does, like, when you project that way, that's not the most glowing outlook. It's not like but here is that you also think cap's going to go up, right? You expect that.
Yeah.
And none of those numbers are really going to work that way. Because you are talking about DJ and them, they got paid. Now they're going to redo it, so they kind of spread it out over a different length. Dante, they're going to spread it out, and Moton's going to be the one they restructure.
Right,
dude. The salary cap is a myth. It never is truly hindering anyone. The only thing that hinders your free agency,
still paying.
The only thing that hinders your free agency is if you have a bullshit football team and no one wants to come play for you. That's it. This money situation, too many teams have shown the NFL that the salary cap, it's not an obstacle. It just isn't. The Saints every year pulled money out of a hat. For a while, the Seahawks were doing it. Then the Chiefs were doing it. Dude, I'm telling you, man, if we have good guys in the
possible?
front,
How are we
this
still
doesn't
paying?
bother me.
How are we still paying Matt Paradis and how are we paying Hassan Reddick money? We only signed him to a 1-year deal. How are we paying him for another year? Do you remember he signed for a 1-year deal?
Yeah.
I don't even understand that. I get it. Like it's that new math. It's that what is it? Common Core math.
Yeah, that's where was
for
it?
all the people.
That's what Lynn said. It's that new math.
Common Core, man.
Yeah, it's so nonsensical.
Well, it works in the NFL. All right, the number's 252-228-5098. Let's go to the next call.
Yo, what's good, C3's JD54.
JD?
I was just calling in to speak on this continuing story that the Panthers may be trying to trade for Mayfield. As many people in the chat have said, and as you guys have said, at best it's a lateral move. And to that point, I've said it before, I feel as though if Corral said it in his interview, as far as he's concerned, it's the mental aspect of the game that's stopping him from taking the starting job. So if he's capable of getting it down, getting the playbook down and stuff, I pose the question of, is the talent gap between him and these upcoming quarterbacks really all that different? Bryce Young or any of them, their arms might be stronger. Like, who can really say that the talent gap is any different? So my thing is, if Corral's able to learn the playbook, everything else is truly going to have to be trial by fire. I say you put Corral out there at day one and let Sam be the fucking backup. And Sam might be a better teacher than he is an actual player. But this whole get Baker Mayfield, it honestly, like, between Sam and Baker, I'd rather have Sam because I don't like Baker's attitude, and the play on the field ain't that. There's nothing Baker's done that's wild. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I get it. I mean, everybody knows I get it, man. Like I feel like I'm leading this train of anti-Baker Mayfield, but
you have been an advocate for getting Corral in there sooner than later. And here is the thing, is that where it does make sense is that if you don't do it this year, there might be a chance that he's not ever going to see the field for the Carolina Panthers, period. Right? Because you could be new coach, new everything, new quarterback in the year after if it's that bad. I mean, maybe I think is you could say, well, we're going to bring him in at some point if things aren't working out, and then we'll get to see in a way that's a little bit more organic than just throwing him into the fire.
Right.
My last kind of question about it, though, or point, is that like we do. All right. So there's one way is like to not rush them and break them. Right. It's like, you're kind of scared of mentally breaking them. The other is that the NFL playbook and the NFL game is so much more complicated. Do you have to, when you have a player that's young and learning, do you have to make it the most complicated system ever? Like, why couldn't we simplify our playbook, our calls in a way to benefit and bring our players along, and to just say, yes, McAdoo could have a 700-page playbook with 97 different calls, but that's not best for what we got with Matt Corral, right? It's like, we don't need to make it as dumbed down as a real basic, like we're holding up faces on the sideline, but why can't you in between it a little bit and bring him along and not make it too complicated? Give him a couple of checks and and say, this is how we're going to handle it and see what happens.
Didn't we do the similar thing for Cam Newton his first year? Like, didn't we kind of make it a little bit more simple so that it was more like the things he ran in college on top of, like it was, I feel like that's what a good offensive coordinator does, is kind of looks at the pieces that they have and say, let's build the offensive game plan around a guy like Cam Newton or Matt Corral or hell, at this point in time, even Sam Darnold, right? Let's build the offense around the things that are their strengths as opposed to making the weaknesses a big part of it. And they've started with building the line. I think the biggest question mark always was not Cam Newton, but Sam Darnold is not able to perform well under pressure. And there's a lot of quarterbacks that aren't able to do that. But, that's Sam Darnold's biggest weakness, I think, is his inability to perform under pressure. So they made a priority to make sure he's maybe not under pressure. And maybe they're going to start doing a lot more bootleg, type of plays where he's throwing on the run or something along those lines. I mean, I think that would be one of the hallmarks of a good offensive coordinator. And so I think that part is okay to be able to simplify it so that you have somebody like a rookie like Matt Corral come in here and be able to do that. The part I'm starting to kind of feel, I don't know, like the idea of breaking a player mentally. If you have the capability of doing that, they weren't a leader to begin with, in my opinion. Right? And do you really want them to be a quarterback? If you can break a quarterback, do you really want them to be the quarterback? Like, you want that quarterback that's going to be able to say, no matter what the situation is, I'm going to bounce back from it. Not, woe is me. My mental state is now incredibly in the dumps, and I'm going to be just continuously bad. I don't know. Like I said, I've never played the quarterback position, so I can't really speak to what that really entails. But I just, at least from the perspective of wanting the leader at that position, I don't think you want somebody in there who's going to be easily broken. And it feels like Sam Darnold could very well be that way. I don't know that Matt Corral is. We have to see more about from him, but I think the ruling's out on Sam Darnold, and the argument. I was thinking about this earlier. Like, the argument people have about Baker Mayfield coming and making this team immediately a playoff team, like, it's such a ridiculous statement, because they're all the exact same people who said we're losing because of Matt Rule. Like, I hate Matt Rule. Matt Rule's the worst coach and we've all been on that train. But not a single one of us are saying this is a playoff team right now, right? With Matt Rule at the helm. There's no logical reason you can give me that Baker Mayfield's going to come in here and improve this team to where, you can give Ben McAdoo as much credit as you want, but there's still a lot that is going to fall on Matt Rule, right? And sure. The idea that one player is going to come in here and change it all up, we need to see more from Matt Rule at this point in time in order to be able to make that assumption, not Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, and CK, to go off of something that you said too, that's something that coaches do all the time. When you have a rookie quarterback, you're understanding that they're coming into the NFL being asked to do things that they were simply never asked to do in college. Right. So, yeah, when you're able to build an offense around them, that's what McVay did for Jared Goff. That's what Andy Reid did for Patrick Mahomes. Like, this is what happens all the time. And I believe this is Matt Rule who said this, talking about Matt Corral. And it does, I've kind of hypothesized this as well, that even if Matt Corral was ahead of the curve, you wouldn't really know it because he was in a system where he wasn't asked to do a lot of those things. He might be able to pick them up very quickly. This is Matt Rule, I believe. It's out of context, but it says, I think the way McAdoo kind of says this, when the ball is snapped, Matt's natural instincts are usually pretty right on. There was a play today. He went to the left. It wasn't there and came back to the right. When you find a young guy who can scan the field like that, it's pretty good. The pre-snap is what's getting him. So basically what he's saying is that all the moving parts and the moving pieces that happen before the play, those are the things that's kind of giving him issues. And that's to be expected with a rookie quarterback. That's why this training camp is going to be so important for him. That's why the preseason is going to be such a big deal for him. I mean, really taking the time to learn the playbook and understand what he's doing. I don't necessarily blame him for not being good at that stuff yet. He needs some time. He needs some polish. And by the way, Sam Darnold, to me, is the perfect buffer for Matt Corral. Because at least if you have Sam Darnold, he's already on the roster. You've already dedicated resources to bringing him here to Carolina. Why don't just let him start the season, like I said, give him the opportunity to prove himself, to finally be a franchise quarterback. We did start 3-0 last year. Let Sam prove that he can be the best version of himself. And then the minute the wheels fall off, start to give Matt Corral some looks. By the way, even if the wheels don't fall off, put him in some goal line situations every once in a while. When the Panthers are up big, put the rookie in and let him get some playing time and really start to see what you have. Tony, I think we have the perfect situation for Matt Corral to come along at just the right pace and time.
Let's bring that Matt Rule comment back up, the whole tweet and everything. I think I call bullshit on this. I think this is, or how about not bullshit? That's wrong. Is overdone. It says, so in the tweet, it says pre-snap is where Corral is apparently struggling. I watched McVay hold Goff's hand to a Super Bowl by helping him with pre-snap calls through his helmet earpiece. Corral can easily start week 1 if the coaches do their job.
And
all right, so now I read the whole tweet. That makes sense.
This is our first caller in the cat calls tonight.
Oh, awesome. All right. So, okay, then I'm with that because Goff's yes, McVay's dope as fuck and this and that. Goff, though, was like a number 1 draft pick, too. So he wasn't like hold his hand,
But it was also like famously stupid. Like there was that clip of him saying like not knowing if the sun rises in the west or the east.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, you remember that?
I want to know this. And when I said where I call bullshit on the pre-snap thing and the protections and this and that, or I think it might be exaggerated, is I would argue that there's only like 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the NFL that do that really, really well.
Okay.
I don't think Sam Darnold does.
No.
Do you think? And what this really is they go up to the line. They have 2 plays called usually, right? They have a pass and play and a B pass and play, and then they can audible to a different play. And they look at the defense and they try to identify if it's a cover 2 and which play fits that one better, right? But what players are in the league, what quarterbacks in the league do you think are really that far along in that? And if you give me names that have been in the league for 10, 12 years, then I don't want to have the talk. It's like, that's one thing. It's like, yes, Tom Brady does that, but that's like the greatest quarterback in the history of the world.
Right.
Is that we've had a guy that's been in the league 4 years. He didn't do shit last year with that. Who is it? Who is the guy? Who is the quarterback in the league that is eating you up like that? And I guarantee you they're all crazy vets. They're all old school vets that have just seen those looks hundreds and hundreds of times. And so I just don't think we should be paralyzed by that.
Right.
Paralyzed entirely because the coaching, that means you should never start a rookie period.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
and
is that like zero time? Can they overcome that? Because that means Kyler Murray wasn't ready for that. That means Jared Goff wasn't ready for that. It means Patrick Mahomes. Like none of these guys were ready for that, and they weren't. They weren't ready to be what they are going to be in the end product from day one. But here is the thing: is you can call out protections and doing that, this and that, but if you fucking shit the bed, who cares? Damn, really, is that you're trying to tell me that Baker Mayfield is that more advanced as in being able to do all this and he still has thrown 22 interceptions?
Yeah. And don't you want to know? And don't you want to know?
I don't know.
So you brought up Clausen earlier. And remember, I wasn't big into the Panthers that year. Like, it was obvious to everyone at a certain point that Clausen was not the guy.
He just wouldn't throw downfield, dude. He just would just check.
And throwing interceptions. And
he would throw a ton of those. His stat line would be like 9 for 13 for 88 yards. And that's it. Like it wasn't nope. It was just like sack, dump, sack,
I'm
Dump.
subscribed to NFL Throwback, and they post games that happen. They posted one from that season with Jimmy Clausen as the Panthers starter, and we were playing the Bears. And dude, I forget who was starting for the Bears. I think Cutler was hurt, but they just took turns with turnovers and turnovers and turnovers. Yeah. I'm like, damn, man, that must have been rough. Yeah, but that's my point, though. You would want to know if Matt Corral is going to be an outright bust, and if he has the kind of tools that you want from that position, you would want to know sooner rather than later. And like Len has said, like I've said, like so many have said, we might not even get many opportunities to see Matt Corral if we don't give him some of those chances to do it this year. So,
all right, let's go on to the next call.
Hey, everybody, it's Hemlock. I am just tired of everybody saying the next big thing is the best thing.
Yep.
Look, we have all the pieces. It may not be for the future unless Corral works out, but we have the best O-line going. We have a pretty proven offensive coordinator now that's an NFL coordinator, not the LSU guy from the past couple of years that really was shit and very boring in his play calls. I believe that we will improve this year. I don't believe Rule is the coach we need. I really think we need somebody else. But, you know, Tepper has ego and refuses to get rid of the Rule because he said Rule's my guy, and he doesn't want people to go, you know what, you're an asshat. But anyways, I think we're going to do fairly well this year, at least 7. I don't think more than 8 or 9, but I think we're actually going to improve, and hopefully we develop Corral and go on into the future. Anyways, keep pounding. Have a good one.
Keep pounding. I mean, look, that seems reasonable. Again, it's kind of like we said earlier. However many wins you think the Panthers are good for this year, it's based on a lot of unknowns, you know? We really don't know what our defensive line is going to look like, minus Hassan Reddick. Our linebacking core has a lot of new players and new pieces on it that are very unproven. We still don't truly know who CJ Henderson is going to be for us. You know, where's Dante Jackson going to line up? Is he going to be an inside corner this year, or are they going to put him on the outside? That's another big question too. And then that's just the defense, man. I mean, you know, so whatever you think of our football team, it's based on a lot of unknowns. Now, the people that are saying that we're going to be a bad football team, people like G-Baby, people like Brad on the Friday Free-For-All, they all point to people like Matt Rule and our coaching staff.
Which is reasonable.
And they're saying
that's not an unreasonable thing to say that our coaching staff is not an asset.
For sure. And I don't
it's not
blame
like
them
we have
for saying
stability.
It.
You know? I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty. Tell me where there is certainty on this team.
I think there's certainty that David Tepper is rich as fuck.
That's it, I guess.
That's pretty much
I mean, that is it. Is like the defense could be, you know, the defense overimpressed last year in the beginning, and then, you know, but like we're sitting here arguing about a quarterback potentially making us so much better that's not even on the team.
Yeah, man.
You know, nothing is certain about this team. The only thing that is certain is that the offensive line can't be worse than it was last year.
Yes,
like to me is like the only certainty there that exists.
Barring like the worst injuries in the world,
right,
befalling our O-line. I mean, literally every free agent signing that we made on the offensive line with Corbett and Bozeman were big time signings from big time teams with big time offensive lines, and then you draft a player in Kevin Kwanu who many people had not just as the best offensive lineman in the draft, but the best player in the draft, period.
Right.
According to many respectable people. So
there's not even certainty around our best player.
Christian McCaffrey, can't stay healthy.
You know, I mean, like, there's not one piece that has zero questions around it. Name me one piece that has zero questions.
I feel like cornerback, other than like the health of J.C. Horn, but I feel like the cornerback.
Dante stays hurt too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think our secondary is better than it's been in a while. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think Carolina.
Does C.J. Henderson love football? You know,
right.
I think he's going to break out this year, by the way.
Yeah, I like. I mean, I'm rooting for him. I think our secondary has probably been better under Matt Rule than it has been at any point that I can remember, except for maybe like 2015. You had Kirk Coleman and like overperform. Yeah, these kind of Peanut Tillman, these guys that came around, and maybe that was the last time. I can't remember a time where we were like our best asset was our secondary. But right now, I would say I would be more confident in our secondary than I would be on our defensive front.
Right. But here's the thing,
and that's not a Panther thing to say, is usually it's like we're trying to win with our front seven, the four up front, the three linebackers, and then we make do with guys in the backfield. We're building this team where I don't know if we're building the team the other way, but it's built the other way right now. Is that it seems like the secondary is at least on paper seems to be the most talented bunch. There's some talent there on the defensive front, but not sure entirely. It's a lot on Derek Brown and Brian Burns to really be dominant.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. I mean, like, yeah, to your question, there is a lot of uncertainty on this team. But I'll tell you what, and the optimism comes with this, we have a lot of damn potential.
Sure.
A lot of damn potential. And that is
on the bottom.
Right. And so
one way.
Right. Well, I mean, here's the thing is like you have so many of these guys who have the potential to come out and just blow things off, blow the doors off the barn, right? Derek Brown could come out here and have just a amazing season now that he is going to be considered one of the veterans on this team, right? Even though he's on his rookie contract. Brian Burns
and he got sat for not being mentally focused last year.
Right. Well, and like, I mean, you look at the defense and the additions there. I mean, and then you switch over to the offense, the offensive line, and then the fact that we've got a couple of studs at running back. I mean, not just Christian McCaffrey. I think that we should be excited about the additions we have with Chuba Hubbard
Foreman.
And then Foreman. And then, wide receivers. I am honestly really excited about what Terrace Marshall is going to do this year. Like, I am thoroughly excited about him because I do think that he has a great potential on this. And with that, if we can get some attention off of DJ Moore may be more of a threat in the red zone. But Terrace Marshall is going to be that guy in the red zone. He's got the height. He's got the build. I think we've got the wide receiver core that we've always wanted. We have a speedster. We have a guy who's great at breaking tackles, and we have that big, tall, lanky, wide receiver who's going to be able to get those 50-50 balls in the back corner of the end zone, right? Yeah. I think there's so much potential. The biggest question mark beyond all of this is the quarterback play. And if again, big ifs, Sam Darnold or even Matt Corral can find a way to turn it on, like, guys, there's a lot to be excited about with this team.
I cannot get excited about Chuba Hubbard. I cannot get a Chuba anymore. Look at this pick. Am I the only person that this lip snarl is just like, what is going on, Chuba?
You know why? Because in your heart of hearts, 30 still belongs to Cameron Artis Payne, doesn't it?
Damn right. Retire that jersey, homie.
The greatest jersey. Panther player who never was.
Most underrated Panther Most underrated Panther. We're going to get to those in just a second. The calls are coming through, though, so we got to stick with them. 252-228-1598.
What is up, C3? It's Anthony. You are
What up, Anthony?
calling like every week.
Good name.
I was on the Friday free-for-all last Friday.
Nice.
Talking the shit with Cody about how Baker Mayfield is most likely going to be a Carolina Panther. And, man, I have nothing to say, but it's going to happen. And everyone that thinks Sam Darnold is going to save Matt Rule's job is just asking for a 2-win season. That's all I got to say, folks. Keep
pounding.
Keep pounding. But interestingly, Sam Darnold's still leading the poll. 30. It's close. It's tightened up. Baker Mayfield is 1% behind Sam Darnold. 153 votes right now in the poll. How about that? 153 votes. Guys, smash those.
What was the
thumbs
exact
up.
question again? How was it worded?
Who would the 2022 Carolina Panthers be better with? Jimmy G, Baker Mayfield, or Sam Darnold?
Well, that's such a here's the thing.
That's what I said. Tony basically made people vote for Sam Darnold, and I love it, dude.
No. Like the thing is like the reality is like you have to have the context behind it. Like, yes, I think Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. Do I think it's that much of a difference? No. Right? Do I think that it's, like somebody had said, the caller had said, do we get excited about the idea of a 9-win season and risk giving up some draft picks for it? No, I don't think we do. Like, that's the opposite. Like, honestly, we're better off going with Sam Darnold with a worse record than we are going with him. So
I feel like
I don't like that question, Joni.
I feel like I should end the poll right now as Mayfield and Darnold are tied. No, I think I'm asking this on a 1-year basis. This year, who will be better with at the helm? I think that's a no context needed question.
No, that's a vacuum question because it would take something to get
Baker Mayfield just
Baker
won
Mayfield.
because of you. 36. I should have closed the poll right when they were tied.
I'm just saying.
We gotta let every voice be heard, man. That's what this podcast is about,
Let's go to the next call.
Hey, this is White Chocolate Espresso from Charleston. I just want to say that I'm also on the fuck Baker Mayfield bandwagon.
Yeah, let's go.
This is what I want. This is what I want to see on the field. I want to see hope, or I want to see nostalgia, which means I want to see Matt Corral, or I want to see Cam Newton. Because Baker and Sam ain't giving me no hope, and they don't give me no nostalgia. And at the end of the day, those are two things you need to enjoy a football game. You need some nostalgia from the old days, and you need some hope. That's my 2 cents. Cody.
All right, man.
All right, cut him off. He was probably trying to make a joke about me.
I didn't cut him off. It just ended on its own.
Nah, I said it cut him off. Yeah. I mean, he's not wrong, man. Like, I think that represents a large portion of the fan base. The problem is, and we can admit this, we've always been able to admit this, that the fan base has always been very divided on Cam Newton. And it's more divided on Cam Newton now more than ever.
Right.
Because of the fact,
I don't think so. I don't even think it's close to him.
No, but
Cam was most divisive when he was good. There was still a group.
No, but I'm saying you're part of the reason why I say that, Tony. It's people like you that have always been diehard Cam Newton supporters that are just like, nah, man, this has run its course and we need to move on to something different. And I think there's a lot of people that echo those same sentiments now too. And so that's why I'm saying it muddies the water even more. And it also goes back to that thing that we've just been talking about here, that so much of it is based on unknowns. Like if we sign Cam Newton, which by the way, apparently the door is still not shut on that. They have not.
Bullshit.
I know, take it for what you will. But if we did bring in Cam Newton, even that is dependent because we're hoping that with enough time and enough, effort, learning the playbook and preseason and all this stuff, that we would be able to see a marked better Cam Newton than the Cam Newton that we've seen on the field the past 2 years, which the past 2 years, admittedly, he has not looked great, even though he has not had a great situation. Both of those things are true. So even still, like that's not giving a ton of hope to anyone because again, pardon me, white chocolate espresso, like he says, it's either one or the other, man. It's either you're hoping in something that you don't necessarily have tangible proof of, and that's Matt Corral being a good player.
Right.
Or you have that nostalgia feeling like, oh man, maybe with the improvements on the offensive line, with the weapons that we have, maybe Cam Newton has a little bit left in him, and there's no proof of that either. So,
yeah, I don't need it. I want Cam to live in my memory, like the Cam I remember. I have been able to. I didn't even watch Cam last year. I mean, I did. I watched the games and stuff, but I was able to shield that from my memory of Cam.
Glazed over.
Yeah, so I remember Cam for what like my hero Cam, and I don't want to remember him like anything else.
Yeah.
All right, next call.
Hey guys, it's Chuck from Elizabeth City, aka
Chuck?
Carolina Sports Guy. You know, guys, maybe it's just me. I'm just kind of dull on the inside. And I know as the season starts and training camp starts, there's always that. It's like Christmas, you have an optimism in the air. And if we can win a couple games like we did last year to start the season, you've always got that ray of optimism. Because it's just like the year we went 15-1 and went to the Super Bowl. We didn't have our expectations because Benjamin got hurt in training camp that we were going to start out 14-0. You just never know where you're going to be. Now, in saying that, it just seems like ever since Tepper's bought the team, and I'm not blaming him, but I really just feel like Rivera and Honey went a downward spiral. And we had injuries derail us. And, of course, Rule comes in. He was the hot hire, and he hadn't been that. But it just seems like we just thought we were going to get better, and we don't. We're just treading water. And until these Carolina Panthers, and I'm on board with it. I do or die. I'm a Panther fan through and through. I don't give up on this team. But we need a middle linebacker or quarterback play. We keep turning over rocks, and we don't know what we're going to do. But until our Carolina Panthers can be as consistent and in the winning circle, like this C3 podcast, folks,
Ooh, we are
thumbs up. Hit the like button, subscribe. You guys are here every Tuesday night. Cody, you're rocking every Friday. Tony, you're putting out little blurbs left and right. Until this franchise can be on a winning ascension and always coming through once a week, just like this awesome podcast does. We're really going to be stumbling and bumbling. But this podcast is a winner. And I just want to let you know, all the other 31 teams wish they had a podcast. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
That's all I got to say, guys.
Chuck, you're going to make us blush, man.
But he's right. That's what we need week in and week out. You know what I mean? I was going to say challenge. The Panthers need to buy us. That's what the Carolina Panthers need to buy us and give us complete access, but also complete autonomy. We're more consistent than we're more consistent than they are. Than their podcast media. They don't even
that's
have
official. You can consult Google on that and it will tell you the same thing.
I'd like to say that we're the number one rated podcast in North America for the Carolina Panthers because we had a friend that lived in Canada, Google, who the number one Panthers podcast, Panthers podcast, we came up first. So I'm like, man, North America, the world, whatever it is. But he's right. It is. We might not be the biggest. You might not think we're the best, but we are consistent, dude. Going into our 10th season, have not missed a week, and the Panthers have missed a week in the media podcasting area and on the field. He is absolutely right about that. So thank you for that shout out. And that's true. It's true. That's what we want. We want a team that brings some consistency. Right. And that really is kind of the fear to me with the coaching staff. Like, that's why I'm going into this season with like house money for me. is that if it's bad, I can understand why it's bad. If it's great, like, and I say great is like 9 wins, that's great to me. If we get to there, then I get to be happy. If we're 5-6 wins, then it's kind of what I expect. We're playing with house money, and that is okay. Everything is new. The whole coaching staff is new, other than Matt Rule and Phil Snow. They could be on their way out. I don't know. I have no expectations. I wouldn't call them low expectations either. I would just say I don't have any real expectations. I'm just going to let it pan out, kind of see where we're at with this coaching, because if we go and win, if we go and get a positive, if we double our win total, then we could probably expect Matt Rule coming back and McAdoo and them coming back. Like, I mean, if we double our win total, you're bringing a lot of these coaching pieces back.
Hey,
if you go, so we're playing with house money, in my opinion. I don't have any expectation, and that is not being pessimistic either.
Well, so, and I think this is true. And CK, tell me what you think about this, man. Like, us Panthers, we're a beaten and battered people. Like, us Panther fans, we've been through a lot, man. That 2015 season truly came out of nowhere, and it gave us a glimpse into a universe where the Carolina Panthers are one of the most dominant teams in football. And it gave us a vision that the Carolina Panthers could be that, and they can continuously be that. And every year, especially the past few years, we start out on a roll and we look good. And then here comes the crumbling, man. Everything goes bad. It goes south really fast. And man, when it rains, it pours. Now we're dealing with this Rock Hill situation. Now we're dealing with this terrible quarterback situation. No one likes Matt Rule. Everyone thinks that he's a lame duck head coach. There are so many unknowns. It's like, I don't blame Chuck or anyone for that matter for not having a lot of excitement and a lot of high expectations about this season out ahead of us, just because this team has not given us a lot to be hopeful about and a lot to actually look forward to. So I certainly blame no one. Now, I want to say one more thing before we move on. One, shout out to Chuck. Brother, we love you, man. You're a diehard C3 fan, always rocking with us. There's 113
diehard Carolina Panther fan, too, by the way.
Yeah, for sure,
Hurricanes, man. The whole deal.
Dude, Chuck from Elizabeth City is the man. There's 113 people watching us right now. We're at around 3,600 some odd subscribers. I want to set a goal for us to reach 4,000 subscribers by the start of the 2023 NFL season. Let's go. And look, that's on each and every one of you now. Tell a friend, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, do whatever you can to help grow the C3 Panthers podcast, man. Tell a friend. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, but we're also on audio. You can listen to us. I'm going to be uploading the Friday format to the audio version as well. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend, man. We're growing this C3 Nation. And one of the things that sets this channel apart is that we're fan-driven. We want to hear from you in our cat calls. We want to hear from you on the Friday free-for-all. This is your show, man. You're a part of this. We do it for y'all through the good times and the bad. C3, baby, you already know what it is. Tony, what we got up next, man?
It's all been about building a community.
Right.
I've never wanted this show to be us talking to people, like as in telling them what to think and what to feel and what to, but because I've always said I'm not a football expert, I'm an expert football fan.
Right? I like that.
You know, it's like I mean, I only use the eye test. I have reaction, like I'm emotional. I love players. I love certain guys. I hate, you know what I mean? Like I latch on to certain things, and like I want to just be a fan, and I want other people to help educate me. So I don't want this me talking to the people, to the listeners, and telling them what's right and what's wrong. I want them helping me be a better fan each and every week,
That's right.
or continue to grow my fandom. I've always said this too, is like I like to think of this podcast is us riding in the car together to and from the game.
Hey, we're riding.
You know, like is that when you ride to the game, you're talking about the season, you're talking about what's going to happen this week, you're going to talk about this, and then when you're riding away from the game, you're either hype about a win or you're about a loss. So yeah, that challenge is out there. Help us grow, help us get to the subscribers that we know are out there that are wanting to be part of this community. We're going to get to 4,000 by the beginning of the season. We're going to get to 5,000 by the end of the season. And all of a sudden, we're going to be taking over.
Let's go.
Jump in the Discord.
Share the podcast
on Spotify. Y'all. Yeah, and man, I'm telling you, just tag us on that, man. Tag us on Twitter and say, look, this is the podcast I'm listening to. These guys are fools. These guys are smart. These guys are fanatics. Whatever. Just share it. That's it. I can't tell you. Look, you can donate. We can beg you for money, but all we're doing is begging you for a share. That's it. That's what I'm begging.
Hey,
for.
Listen, you help us grow this thing. We don't need money from you guys. We would need money from advertisers. We would need money from people that are, trying to have you guys as customers. And that's the thing that I think is going to be driving, hopefully, the future for this. But the biggest thing, if you tag us on anything, I think the biggest thing is also putting in the Carolina Panthers, because I mean we need to get that visibility out there as well. They need to see that we are a legit presence in the Panthers community. There's not many people that you're going to reach out to that are podcast listeners or anything that don't know of C3, and so that's where we've got to kind of take that market share and run with it. So, and that all comes with you guys constantly telling your friends, any again, it's lonely being a Panthers fan if you're not in North Carolina or South Carolina. I know that all too well, as I'm in Virginia, and I know I'm not tremendously far away from the
right.
stadium.
You're not living in Kansas or something.
But we all know one or two people that might be Panthers fans, or maybe somebody who's just really on the edge of saying, maybe I need to find a team that I'm interested in. Well, the reality is we're all looking for a community. I think we're all looking for a group of people that have something to be excited about, something to be, engaged with on a weekly basis and have consistency. And there's no other show out there that's been more consistent than C3 for as long as it's been consistent. Every Tuesday night, every Friday night, and occasionally during the season, maybe a couple of snippets here and there to try to get you guys some content to watch throughout the time.
The post game has been rocking. That's the bread and butter during the season.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, let's go. I want to do some nostalgia stuff instead of just only talking about Baker. And this is, was wondering this: if Christian McCaffrey retired today, would he be considered the best Panthers running back in history? And I'm going to pull up some stats
in Panthers history. You mean?
Yeah, like as the best one that we've ever had to do it in the black and blue, because he did have the 1000, the 1000 season. Like that is arguably the best season. It is the best season by a running back. Let me see if I can pull up his stats. Who would you say is this? It's between who else? All right, so Christian McCaffrey has played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's played 5 years, only played 52 games. He started 52 games. He's rushed for 3,587 yards. He's had 30 rushing touchdowns. Here, I'm going to share. Might as well just share this. Share screen tab. All right. So here are Christian McCaffrey's stats on Pro Football Reference is he's had 30 rushing touchdowns, 3,500. We'll round up to say 3,600 yards rushing. His longest rushing touchdowns, longest rush was 84 yards. Here's where he's like really pretty dominant, is 357 receptions in 5 years, 3,000 receiving yards, 17 receiving touchdowns. That's pretty big time right there. So he's only played for, and then that one season was the Pro Bowl All-Pro, first team All AP All-Pro 2017, where he had the 1,300 rushing yards and the 1,000. Just got it. 1,005 receiving yards. Who would be the next guy if you were going to do it? To me, I think it's D'Angelo Williams is like the next, probably. I know people don't want to hear that.
So CK, I'm gonna let you go first. I'm gonna put the poll up. So I just ended the last poll. Baker Mayfield came out on top with 37% of the vote, with over 170 votes. So, I mean, just by the narrowest margin, Baker Mayfield popped that out. But I'm going to put up a running back poll. Go ahead, CK.
Yeah, it's such a tough question. I don't think you can put him as the greatest running back. Is he the greatest dual threat? Yes. But from as a pure running back, it's gotta be D'Angelo. Or, I mean, there's an argument for Steven Davis.
Well, no, I mean, but the Steven Davis's real years were in Washington. You know, I mean, he had like 1 or 2 years with 2 years with the Panthers. We'll look up his stats here. I think so. Okay, so you're saying I think D'Angelo's a head and shoulders ahead of Steven Davis in Carolina. Now to say that D'Angelo's a better running back than Steven Davis, but I'm just saying in the black and blue.
In what we've experienced. Yeah. Gotcha.
Here is D'Angelo's stats: 9 years with the Panthers. He started 82 games. He had 6,800 rushing yards. He had 40.
How many years was he with the Panthers?
9. That's pretty good. That's pretty good from 06.
It's comparable though to Christian though.
He had 46 rushing touchdowns. His longest rusher. So Christian McCaffrey does right now hold the record for the longest rushing touchdown in Panthers history, I believe, 84, because D'Angelo had it before. I mean, we're going to look through it. 77-yard long. He had only 1,600 yards receiving and 7 receiving touchdowns. I don't know. This is tough. Because longevity, D'Angelo was more of a pure, and this is actually kind of strange to me, to be honest, is D'Angelo, why wasn't he more of a dual threat running back? He had the makeup to be it. Did we just not use him like that?
Can I make the case that both of those men prevented the other from being the true all-around running back? That they were probably
Jonathan Stewart.
Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams. They were probably both capable of more than they were asked to do, just because they were that thunder and lightning combo. And by the way, what a combo it was! I mean, everybody remembers Hurney paying Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams. At the time, people loved that. Great football players. When it comes to Jonathan Stewart, and again, I know I'm just biased because, he was a part of some of my favorite Panther teams ever. But I feel like Jonathan Stewart just doesn't get enough love. I mean, I'm not even saying that he's necessarily ahead of Christian, because Christian did have a very
wrong. I'm going to push back
season.
on this. Wait till you see his numbers.
Well, but also another thing that you're not mentioning, Tony,
actually
is that
never mind. Hold on. Jonathan Stewart might be the best.
But Tony, another thing that you're not even mentioning, regardless of what those numbers are, just about every year he missed like 1 or 2, maybe even 3 games due to injuries. Like Jonathan Stewart dealt with a lot of injuries. However, when he was on the field, I feel like Jonathan Stewart was just a beast, man. He was always driving. He was, I think, underrated as a pass catcher. It was never something that we did with him very much. But I felt like he was underrated at that. And he was just powerful, man. And he had some fantastic plays that were, pivotal for those 2014 and 2015 teams, respectively.
All right, Mr. Coke, I was looking at his rushing attempts when I was like, God, man, he's not even close to D'Angelo, but this is crazy. I'm surprised by this. Is that Jonathan Stewart had more rushing yards in the black and blue than D'Angelo Williams.
How many seasons?
10. So he had one more season.
How many more?
But
what's
he had, how many more games? How about this? Ooh,
but he just
played.
Like, you remember it was like his final season that he played that he finally broke that record of the most rushing yards.
Yeah, but D'Angelo started 82 games for the Carolina Panthers. That's crazy.
He was explosive, man.
Yeah, but Stewart only started 64.
And he has more yards?
He had, all right, so D'Angelo Williams started 82 games. He had 1,432 rushing attempts, and he had 6,800 rushing yards. Jonathan Stewart started 64 games, had 1,700 rushing attempts. So he had a lot more rushing attempts. Wow.
What's the yards per attempt?
4.3 for Jonathan Stewart, 4.8 for D'Angelo. D'Angelo was a home run hitter.
Yeah.
7,300 yards for Jonathan Stewart and 51 touchdowns. 6,800 yards and 46 touchdowns for I think Jonathan Stewart right now. Jonathan Stewart, here's the thing. It only had one. How is this possible? How did he get so many yards? He only had
how did he get so many yards?
He only had one 1,000-yard season.
It was all injuries, though, man.
I know, but
He was
D'Angelo
always
had
on pace.
one. D'Angelo had a 1,500-yard season. That's awesome. He would have. How many rushing yards did he have? Only 121. 2008, D'Angelo was balling. 2009, D'Angelo was balling. Jonathan Stewart only had 2009 where he was like crushed. I'm surprised. I'm just surprised. He was just always in that 800 range. He had 3 years. 14, 15, 16 saved his career.
Yeah, and what I would say, I mean, I think 2013 he got hurt. He only had a few games in, right?
It started in 11. He only 2012 he had 9 games he played. 2013 he played 6. And then he came back.
And then if you look at that, I feel like you see obviously I think a trend. He's always been that. I think he also benefited heavily from having a run first type of offense for the majority of Cam Newton's career here, and that play in the I guess read option that we would run, and so I think he got the benefit of that. But I also think that that we didn't have Steve Smith on the team anymore in those years, so It was a lot easier for it to be a Jonathan Stewart. Like, we didn't, I mean, outside of maybe a go-to in Kelvin Benjamin, we didn't really have a go-to guy in the offense that was going to be like the guy.
Yeah, D'Angelo never got he didn't have a bunch of years where it was just him. Jonathan Stewart had 3 years where it was just him and Cam. Let's answer the question then, because I'm gonna vote that if Christian McCaffrey retired today, I'm gonna say yes.
Christian,
I'm gonna say that his stats would warrant him, as he's already had. It's because his receiving yards are so insane. And what I just want to say is the only reason I'm gonna say this is that if we're gonna fight about the longevity of a career, first of all, Jonathan Stewart's career was riddled by injury too. So It's not like, is that Christian McCaffrey's career is not over. But I'm going to say this is that, like, Bo Jackson was a better running back than D'Angelo Williams. And I feel like maybe is that if he retired today, it would be short. It would be short. He wouldn't be the statistically the best running back in Panthers history, but I think he would have been the best running back we ever saw on the field in Panthers history at one moment. I'm going to say Christian McCaffrey. Underrated running back for me is Deshaun Foster. Had the fumbles a little bit, had the little buttery fingers at one point.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. What are you guys thinking? Would you, if Christian McCaffrey retires today, who goes down as the best Panthers running back in history?
So real quick, before I give my answer here, shout out to Dan Floyd, man, watching us from across the pond over there in the UK. He says it's almost 4 a.m. there. Hey, man, you're the type of fan that we do this for, man.
Yep.
Yeah, man, especially people over in the UK don't have a lot of Panther content. So have a good night, brother. And yeah, man, if we're going to talk about all-time Panthers running backs, like it's a toss-up for me, man, because on one hand, McCaffrey had one of the best seasons that a running back has literally ever had in that 1 year that he went
him
crazy.
and Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson had a 2,000-yard season.
Yeah, didn't Marshall Faulk?
Maybe. I think. Well, I'll look it up. Keep going, Mom.
Yeah, one of it was either Tomlinson or Marshall Faulk did that at one point too. And again, when you're being compared to those dudes, like, come on, man, Christian McCaffrey is incredible. Nobody is denying the talent. And when Christian is at his best, I do think that he is the best version of an all-around running back that we ever had. I mean, say what you want about injuries, but Christian has proven that he is very successful running in between the tackles. And that's something that not a lot of people, when he was coming into the NFL, a lot of draft nicks said that was going to be a problem for him. And by the way, I didn't even, before we drafted Christian McCaffrey, and I know you were on the Fournette train too, I admit I missed. I wanted Fournette. I didn't want Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. I thought the same thing. I didn't think it was going to be able to hold up between the tackles.
Well, there is an argument right now. He's been.
Yeah, but you've even made the point, Tony, that those injuries that Christian sustained, they weren't in between the tackles. They were when he was bouncing plays to the outside. So even that's not really a fair comparison to say that his injuries have shown that he can't do it. But then I keep on going back to Jonathan Stewart and how he's the all-time rushing leader for the Panthers at the running back position. He played in the Super Bowl for us. He's been to different playoff runs as a Carolina Panther in 2013, 14, 15. And he's really done a lot for us. And by the way, if I remember correctly, in Super Bowl 50, Jonathan Stewart scored the only touchdown that the Panthers scored in that entire game. So I think that also bears mentioning and bringing up in this conversation as well. I'd maintain Jonathan Stewart.
He doesn't even have the most rushing yards in a season for a Panthers running back.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
D'Angelo has it at 1,500.
Right.
Yeah.
But total yards McCaffrey has.
But here's the thing. When we go to 2,000-yard club, which it is misleading for me to even put him in that club because there's only 8 people that have rushed for 2,000 yards. There have been 8 rushing. O.J. Simpson had 2,003 yards in 14 games. That's insane. On 332 attempts. Eric Dickerson.
That's pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah. He did it on the least amount of attempts and the least amount of games, O.J. Simpson. He really had the best season ever. 14 games, 332 attempts. Here, I'll show this. I might as well just.
Man, he was a real killer, wasn't he?
A little low-hanging fruit there.
I'm here every Tuesday.
This is cool too. I mean, Eric Dickerson had 2,100 yards. Barry Sanderson had 2,000 yards rushing. Terrell Davis had 2,000 yards. Jamal Lewis, Chris Johnson, ECU Pirate, baby. Adrian Peterson and Derrick Henry, the only people that have actually just like been traditional running backs in that. So that's a good man. So you're going Jonathan Stewart?
Dude, is
God, I might have to change the D'Angelo. Good God, I don't know.
And
the
by
chat
so okay,
says Christian McCaffrey. 45% of people say Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, 53 votes. 45% says Christian McCaffrey. D'Angelo Williams at 23. Jonathan Stewart at 32. I mean, look, it's like, I think if we're talking most talent, it's hands down Christian McCaffrey.
Right. Agreed.
Hands down, not even close. But I think just to honor my elders and the people that made this team, the team I love, I'm gonna go Jay Stu, man.
Okay.
DK, if he retired today, see, this is similar to the argument that you could have about Luke. Right? Even Luke is more accomplished, I can say that, but like the argument that is Luke the greatest linebacker, but like reality is he did also end his career early, right?
I think Luke is hands down.
I agree. So I mean, like that's where I'm talking about the argument of like, can we really use his tenure as a downside to this argument? I think I feel like I got to go D'Angelo. Like he just passes the eye test. Like when you watch the film, so does Christian McCaffrey, but D'Angelo Williams did it longer so far. And yeah, I've got to go. I got to go D. Will.
D'Angelo has something like he's like one of the top 5 players that have had like 75-yard plus touchdowns.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's like had 4 in his career. So he hit some home runs, which is crazy. I think Derrick Henry's up there strangely. All right, so let's go. This is so kind of mixed. It's very difficult.
Three different answers from all three of us.
I know,
Tony said CMC,
difficult.
I said Jay Stu, and CK said D. Will.
I need, if CMC can he's got to get, if he gets one more Pro Bowl, like if he can do 2 more 1,000 yards seasons, it's a wrap for me. You know, like then, but
Right,
you're right. It's like there is an argument, like is he just had the greatest season? And that really is the case. Like he has had the greatest running backs,
hands down.
But here's the thing, guys. Like here's
that
the
wasn't
part
a
that
question either.
I think we all need to kind of keep in mind. He's going into his 5th year. This is his 5th year, or no? Last year was his 5th year.
Christian McCaffrey was drafted 17. 27,
Yeah,
1,
17,
2,
so
3, 4, 5. He's going
5
into his
years.
6th season. 6.
So, and he's been injured 2 of those. Is that right?
Yeah,
Or
the
3?
last 2. The last 2. Just the last 2.
Wait, so how is it? Because he had the 2 seasons that he didn't have injuries. Or his
He started
first
his
season,
rookie year. His rookie year,
and then he had the
2017.
ball and
he
out
started
season
10
after that.
games. So his rookie year, he started 10 games, 117 rushing yards. I don't know who was the running back.
17.
That was Jay Stu.
17,
Was he still there in
18,
2017?
in 2017, 2018, and 2019, Christian was healthy and good to go.
Yeah.
It was 2020 and 2021 that he really started having the difficulties with the injuries. So he's had 3 healthy years, and he's had two injured ones. Yeah, man. So I don't know. I mean, a lot of people tend to agree in the chat, like in the next couple of years, we expect it to hands down to be Christian McCaffrey. And obviously we're all hoping for that.
Yeah, like as if he doesn't make a resurgence, right? Like if he doesn't make a comeback, like and have a couple more really 1,000-yard seasons, he could go down as one of those. He's going to go down in history as one of those players that great player undermined entirely by injury.
Yeah,
right.
You know what I mean?
Like a players.
I don't even want to put him in the same as a Bo Jackson because like it's a different type of thing. Bo Jackson had a injury that turned into a degenerative hip. Bo Jackson fucking was 2-sport monster. Bo Jackson insane. Speaking of this, when I was on vacation with my family, we were in Helen, Georgia. I saw this guy in the store and I walked up to him recording on Snapchat. He was wearing all Auburn gear. I said, best player in Auburn history. And I was sitting there thinking, he better say Cam. He better say Cam. And he goes, Bo Jackson. I was like, great answer.
All right, fine. You literally said the only other Auburn player that is acceptable in that situation.
Right. I was so expecting Cam. I thought I was right. All right. So how about this? Let's go with best play by Panthers quarterback. And this could be favorite play, best play. You've got a couple by Jake Delhomme in that 2004 run. He hit Steve Smith. He has an incredible Super Bowl game where he hits Steve Smith for a big touchdown, Masim Muhammad. These are all iconic moments to the level. There were 4 iconic plays in those playoffs. You had Steve Smith against the Rams where he takes it the 64 yards or whatever it was that I put up on our most recent short. Then he hit Steve Smith for a big play, I think either at the end of the second or to begin the third quarter in the Super Bowl. And then the longest touchdown in NFL history still to this day, 85 yards to Masim Muhammad. But then there's one other iconic play. It was not to a wide receiver. That Deshaun Foster run against the Eagles is the most dope thing in the history of the world. Like, if you want to get hyped, this guy busted 5 tackles in 1.5 yards. It felt like he ran 40 yards to get 5 yards, beat that whole team. So you had those iconic plays. So I think of those, Delhomme making those big time throws. I'm going to say this, best play, and I feel like I'm going to let Cody go first because I think I'm going to steal his. So I'll let you go first.
Yeah. So again, people who know my history know my era of Panthers fandom truly started with Cam Newton. So, those plays, I'm sure so many of you, like, how about this? I'm willing to bet that most people probably have a Steve Smith reception in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl. That's probably going to be
but it's by a quarterback.
Voted the highest for them, right? Dude, Cam Newton has just made so many over the years. That
do you have it? I hope
so
you have
beautiful.
It. I know which one you're going to pick.
Which one?
The Atlanta Falcons one. Is that
so
not?
I thought you were talking throw.
No,
I thought you were talking. It doesn't have to be a throw.
Just the best.
Oh, then yeah. Oh, yeah. If it doesn't have to be a throw, then hands down, there is no better play, in my opinion, in the history of Panthers football than Cam Newton dragging
the entire Atlanta Falcons team.
The entire Atlanta Falcons. Literally,
it was a 4th down, I think,
of the Atlanta Falcons defense. The Panthers are losing. That's the only game that we lost in 2015. Cam Newton proceeded to drag 8 different Atlanta Falcons players 10 yards for the first down on a must-have-it 4th down, dude. And I'm sorry, but that is one of the most badass plays that I have ever seen in my entire life. I would be so lucky to ever witness a clip that awesome and that badass in a game ever again. And by the way, a very close runner-up is the first game of the 2015 season when Cam Newton did that somersault over that Houston Texans.
Oh, was
it
against
the Houston Texans player and landed right on his feet?
Oh, I was at that game, dude. I was at that game sitting in that end zone. End zone. Whoop, right at us. I mean, I wasn't in the end zone. I was in the upper deck.
Dude, Cam Newton was such a badass, man.
It really is the best play by a quarterback in NFL and Panther history is automatically going to come from Cam Newton. Like, I'm sorry, sadly, because hold on, I'm going to show you guys this. We'll get demonetized for it, but who cares? You see, This is another one. So that Atlanta one was great. There was one in Tennessee where he did something. Remember the mom wrote the
where
letter.
he did the dab and then
that one was pretty dope. But this goes down. This was early. This is early in Cam lore against New England on Monday Night Football. Here it goes. I'll start one more time. Takes the snap. Look, breaks. Look, up. See you later. Oh my goodness gracious. That's why C-Dog said he's the best running back in our history. But I remember think Cam had some big time throws too that could be in the conversation.
Yes.
Right? Oh yeah.
Sure. That's what I was mine was going to be. Well, first let me set the stage. It's fourth down. We're driving. We're in the red zone, and JJ Watt's about to get a sack, and Kyle Allen. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to put a Kyle Allen as the best play, but that was pretty funny. Anyway, it's the one where I can't remember the context behind it, so it wasn't like one of these like super important games, but Cam Newton, and I know it's that deep ball that we all just like get massive erections over when we think about nowadays. Like he just uncorks the ball all the way to the perfect spot in the back of the end zone where only one person can get it. Ted Ginn drags his toes for a touchdown in the end zone.
I think it was against Miami.
Yeah, it was not like a super important game, but my God, is it that like not an just iconic moment for what Cam Newton used to be able to do with that ball, throwing the ball just basically the full length of the field and catching somebody just perfectly in stride. It was just so incredible. And something that I think we're all super.
Here's another
Tony,
one if you want to think.
Tony, you mentioned this one earlier too. That touchdown to Ted Ginn in the back of the end zone. It was that same Thursday Night Football where Luke Kuechly suffered that terrible concussion, and we won the game by the narrowest of margins. But from the 45-yard line, Cam just unlooses a bomb all the way downfield to the very back of the end zone, and Ted Ginn catches it. Now, upon first review, the official said that it was out of the back of the end zone and that it was no good.
It was on his fingertips. Like, it was impossible. It was like crazy.
They didn't think that he got both of his feet in, but your boy Ted Ginn did. And it was one of the best plays of Cam Newton's career. Absolutely beautiful, man. That was just fantastic. The stuff of legends, man. Like I said, and I think that's part of the reason why if the Panthers are actually able to do right by Matt Corral, like we have seen the definition of a player or a franchise quarterback not having the team around him to be able to actually compete and give him a situation to be successful. And they never did that with Cam Newton. And I really do feel like a lot of those years with Cam, we wasted much of his prime. And I regret that we couldn't do better by him, even though I think it's too late now,
I wish we could find that one. All right. So, all right, good stuff. It's easy to like, those are good plays to remember is that you're thinking Delhomme and that playoff run. You're thinking Cam Newton in multiple settings, whether running, passing. Cam is our guy. The reason I started these questions, I'll go on Pirate Radio, and right now they're in the kind of doldrums too. Is like now baseball's over, and they're doing this for Pirate football, and it's a lot more fun with college football. Who is your best quarterback in history? Who's your most underrated quarterback? So that we went through that last year. But if you really look at the Panthers quarterback legend is really short. It goes Kerry Collins, 1 year with Steve Berline. That was good. Then you get Jake Delhomme era. I mean, yes, we can sprinkle in some other names, but they're not worth mentioning. I mean, you only have 4 quarterbacks worth mentioning in our history, and 2 of them are Delhomme and Cam Newton, and both took our team to the Super Bowl. That's it. So let's go with this one. Last nostalgia question. We'll pick up some more of these types of questions next week.
I got one more after this too.
Okay, good. What is the most underrated defensive player in Panther history?
Oh, most underrated defensive player in Panthers history. Oh, man. Like, I feel like I could even go Greg Hardy if it wasn't for how his career ended, being a very bad note. But, dude, people forget. We were calling Greg Hardy like another Julius Peppers. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Greg Hardy had this run, dude, where he was the most dominant defensive ends in the league.
They
right,
called him
right
the
there.
Kraken.
I mean, it was insane. It was insane. I don't know if he was underrated or just went down in flames.
Some good names in the chat, too.
Yeah, I think that people are never going to give Gamble, people forget, what was Gamble's first? Chris Gamble. Ricky Manning Jr. is a great one. This dude had so many important. He had like so many, and this is before your time, Cody. I know, but this guy had
you're gonna have to school me. I don't even know what
mad
position
interceptions on the way. He on our 2.
DB?
It wasn't just 1 year. Yeah, he was a DB, and he was a nickel corner. And this dude just had like 5 or 6 major picks in the playoff run. He was amazing. So we'll do 2 eras. We'll do the post 2011 since Cody's here, and we'll do a pre where you can't discuss it then. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple of names to think about for the pre era. That is one. I don't know if he's underrated, but he went on to play for another team and be very, very good for them too. Chris Jenkins. Jenkins was the 2 players that I think are underrated Carolina Panthers actually signed big deals with other teams. Chris Jenkins and Will Witherspoon are 2 players that I think are kind of underrated Panthers. So those are mine. CK, do you have a pre-2011 one you want to throw in there?
Are we talking about if we were to, like, are we thinking underrated currently or underrated in the time that they were playing here?
Oh, I'll let you decide.
I feel like Dan Morgan at this point in time. Nobody, I mean, and it's because you have the likes of so many good linebackers out there now. I mean, it's hard to remember Dan Morgan as anything other than a short-lived experience with us. But when you have Beeson and Luke and Thomas Davis and everybody else on that list, it's easy to kind of fall down that list of rated appropriately linebackers. But I think currently not many people think of him as one of the greatest linebackers in the franchise, which he was.
I wanted to just point out is that that's kind of, maybe we'll do that next week, is what's the best linebacker tandem.
Oh, that's such an easy one though.
You think it's Luke and TD no matter what?
It has to be.
I don't think there's a competition with it, to be honest with
you.
What
do you mean? Let me tell you this.
Dude, I don't care who came before my time. The answer is Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis. No one, I don't care who I missed. There's no way anyone comes close to those 2, man.
Tony, to Cody's point, I think they might be top 5 in the history of the NFL tandem.
They were fucking good, man.
I want to if I could just pull up this. I want to know what the stats, the box score. Hold on. All right. Box score in 2004 Super Bowl. Just when you hear the stats of this one, of what these players did, what Will Witherspoon and Dan Morgan did. Dan Morgan had 18. He had 11 solo tackles. He had 18 combined tackles and 7 assisted and 11 solo tackles. And where was it? I thought they both had over 20. Both of these guys registered over 20 tackles in the Super Bowl. It's insane.
For what team?
Will Witherspoon and Dan Morgan in this
in the
2004 Super Bowl. Both of them had over 20 tackles in that game. Like, I mean, it's just like these motherfuckers were just flying, dude, and eating. So
D-Lo Blue has a good point. He says it's Luke and TD, and then Beeson and TD. So either way, TD's a part of it.
Well, I don't know. I think that's kind of underestimating that Will Witherspoon or that Dan Morgan. You know, that's fun. It's interesting. Arguably the two best linebackers in Panthers history have both had careers ended shortly. I want to see how many Dan Morgan, which by the way, Dan Morgan's with our front office. Dan Morgan, let's see how many years he played. What was Luke Kuechly, 8? Wasn't he only 8 seasons?
9, I think.
9.
Drafted.
Dan Morgan was 01 to 07.
No, you're right. It was 8 years because we drafted him in 2012, and his last season was 2020. Or no,
Dan Morgan is destroyed by injuries, dude. He didn't play a single season in all 16 games.
Well, Luke Kuechly too. Luke Kuechly didn't even make it a decade.
I know, crazy. All right,
Damn,
what was
man,
your last
crazy.
nostalgia? Oh no, we're gonna do underrated defensive player post 2011.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. You said Greg Hardy would be one. Someone put Star. I like Charles Johnson. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I want to try to get somebody who contributed to this team a lot. Peanut Tillman in that 2015 run was so important to this team.
Would you say Mario Addison was underrated?
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
That's a great answer, Mario Addison. Because for a long time, Mario Addison was our primary edge rusher for a long time. And a lot of people say that he definitely outplayed his expectations. He was an undrafted player. He bounced around. He was with the Colts.
He came here as a pretty old veteran as well. Like he wasn't a spring chicken when he came in here, and he earned
he was
nice
undersized.
contract.
He wasn't. He was an undersized. They call him that Joker defensive end.
Right.
So that's a great one. How about this? I don't know if it's necessarily underrated, but I'll say K1 Short. And I'll say that just because I think when you look at that team that went to the Super Bowl, the best part of our offensive line and defensive line was the
that interior. Yeah.
So on the offensive line, you had Khalil, you had Norwell, and you had Turner. But on the defensive line, that 1-2 tandem of Star Latulele, man, when Star was able to eat up those double teams, K1 Short would absolutely throw dudes off of him, man. He was out there doing legit kung fu. Okay, K1 Short, in my opinion, doesn't get enough credit. I see Carson one saying Coney Ely.
Oh, I love it.
But, I mean, outside of that one crazy Super Bowl, how about this? I would put Josh Norman before I would put Coney Ely.
I think I'm going to have to go Kurt Coleman, maybe. Something like that.
Oh, that's a great one, too.
You know,
Kurt doesn't get enough credit for how good of a free
that we had. So all the names, that's kind of hard for me in the chat. Like somebody said Roman Harper. I said Peanut. Isn't it crazy? Like, none of those guys are Panthers, though.
Right.
Peanut Tillman's a Bear. Roman Harper's a Saint. Kurt Coleman is arguably just as much a Panther as he is an Eagle. I'm going to put my answer in Kurt Coleman.
More so. How about that?
Well,
Coleman is more so a Panther than he is an Eagle. At least him. I can't necessarily speak to the other guys, but I mean, he had his most success with the Panthers.
All right. What was your nostalgia question, Cody?
It's not necessarily nostalgia, but it's just fun. and I would thought that we'd get a lot of good answers.
Oh, the draft one. Yeah.
So my question to you, Tony, to you, CK,
Yep.
to everyone in the chat room, if there was an NFL coaches draft and the Carolina Panthers had the number 1 pick to draft any current head coach in the NFL, who are you drafting? And I'll go first, man. My answer is Mike Tomlin. This man not only has 2 Super Bowl rings on his hand, but he's never had a losing season as an NFL head coach. And he has been the coach in one of the hardest divisions in football traditionally, in that AFC North. I think Tomlin is incredible. Every time I listen to this man, you hear the wisdom pouring off of him. And it seems like an ultimate motivator too, man. I think a lot of those Steelers would run through a wall for Mike Tomlin. And that's the type of coach that I would love to be with the Carolina Panthers. So, yeah, Tony, CK, everyone in the chat room, hey, you have the number 1 pick. You're picking for the Panthers. What coach are you picking? Boys, what say you?
I've got a different answer and no hesitation in saying it. Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is just dominant with that San Francisco team, with not even the best team all around. Like, he's always kind of missing something, making a lot out of something. And look, he was a big part of RG3's success. He was a giant part of the Atlanta. Actually, he was the reason the Atlanta Falcons arguably made it to the Super Bowl and did all of that. He's young. He can be a passing guy. He can be a running guy. He is like the Bill Belichick of the youngins to me. But I mean, I know Belichick's a defensive guy. To me, it's Kyle Shanahan.
That's a good answer, man. I thought I remember you not liking Shanahan. Like, one time I remember like bringing him up and you were like, dude, this Shanahan.
No, if it was like us trying to get him, then it would not. No, I would have been okay. The guy I don't like that people say is that often reminds people is the dude that's the coach of the Las Vegas Raiders right now. I don't like him.
Oh, McDaniels, Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, that's the guy I don't like.
Okay.
I don't like Shanahan too because he was great with the Falcons. CK, answer. I gotta use the bathroom real quick.
Are we in the history of the NFL or just
no? This is all current 32 NFL head coaches active right now, and you get your pick. Like, you're the number 1 pick. Panthers are picking first. You're picking the head coach for the Carolina Panthers. Who are you picking?
It's such a tough one.
I know.
Listen,
man.
I gotta go. I gotta go. Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick. Billy B? Okay, just pedigree.
Yeah.
Okay, pedigree. Pretty simple. Pretty simple answer. Hey, can I give an honorable mention that I'm surprised more people haven't named? And he might not be your first option, but I think you could make a damn good case for this guy as well. Dude, what about Sean McDermott? Yeah, White Chocolate put it as number 3, man. Sean McDermott has Panthers history. Yeah, our best defenses that the Panthers have ever had came under Sean McDermott.
Oh, whoa. Oh, okay. I was thinking of the Cowboys guy for some reason.
No. Like,
yeah.
So CK said Bill Belichick.
That's a great answer.
Well, CK said Bill Belichick, and then I'm surprised some people aren't saying McDermott, since he has history with the Panthers.
Or McVay.
Like,
yeah,
Andy Reid.
People said McVay too.
The only argument against Sean McDermott right now is just not having made it to the mountaintop yet, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Belichick's been there and been there and been there.
And I know you can argue the Tom Brady argument. Tom Brady wasn't really Tom Brady. That's like this Tom Brady that we've seen as of the last 5 to 10 years until the past 5 or 10 years. So a lot of that was Belichick, and he's done it by not having superstars for the most part. Like for the most part, he isn't somebody who pays to get these crazy free agents to come up there. And he somehow has the ability to game plan and scheme against every individual team and have his team ready to play every single week, right? And you can look at last year, the year prior to last year when Cam Newton was there and make an argument that he wasn't a good coach. But I mean, I think even with that, you can't even make that argument because there was so many unknowns about what was going on with their team. They had just lost Tom Brady. And, let's be real about it. He had to try to plug and play, and Cam Newton is not a player that he is accustomed to having to game plan with. And then Mac Jones comes their first year and they dominate. Now,
I wouldn't go so far as to say dominant, but I think one
they
thing
made
is
the playoffs.
Yeah, I think for me, it always comes down to defensive or offensive coach. And there's, to me, a limitation even with, all right, so Tomlin, Belichick, and McDermott might be creeping into that conversation right now of consistently good defensive coaches.
Right.
I'm trying to think of who else would be a consistently.
But also, to CK, doesn't age play into this too? Like, I think it should.
Yeah.
Like, if you're picking
because we really should be picking Andy Reid.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. If you're picking Andy Reid and Bill Belichick, you're picking two guys that are probably on the latter end of their career. Whereas you could make the case that Mike Tomlin or Shanahan or McVay or whoever, that they could be doing this for the next,
if the argument is
McDermott
current,
would be the young version of that.
Right.
Yeah,
if the argument now, if it's shifting to, current, like they're in their current state, I guess my interpretation of that question is any coach in the history of the NFL, right? Like, being able to say, Bill Belichick because of the history. I mean, like, if you're looking at it from that perspective, but if you're talking about like somebody who is like in their current status that they're currently in, I might even go.
Watch him say LaFleur.
No, I'm gonna go.
Who would you pick? How about this? Would you
Zach
rather
Taylor.
if we? Ooh, well, I mean that's a young.
Wait,
is that
who?
the
Zach
Bengals
Taylor.
guy?
That's the
guy?
Bengals dude.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's
could
fine.
I? How about Brandon Staley, the Chargers head coach?
Nope, not even close right now. Just because I love to listen to him talk right now, it hasn't turned into anything. But I know I love listening to. I would love listen to him like explain how to like cut grass or whatever.
Dude, he's the fucking man.
How about this? If you had your choice next year, Matt Rule gets fired, and we have our choice of two coaches, McVay or Kyle Shanahan. Who would you pick?
Probably McVay.
Really?
Because
Wow.
Shanahan is attached to not only the Falcons, but one of the worst blown
What has that
leads
got to
in
do with-
Super Bowl history.
But that's not the offense that does that. That's the defense.
Yeah,
as
they
well.
were throwing the football when they should have been running the clock out.
How many Super
And
Bowls
they
has
made
Kyle
Matt
Shanahan been to?
Ryan. They made
None.
Matt Ryan
Oh,
drop
one,
back into
right?
the pocket
No,
for
not
them
even.
to pin their ears back. Like that, a lot of that has to go on Shanahan.
I am totally on the opposite. Is I would take Kyle Shanahan all day long because, like white chocolate espresso, my son, my bastard child, says is he's done it with way less talent. Man, they just did it with a super team. That's what the Rams did. They had a super team. They, like, come on.
Yeah, but the 49ers, it's not like they have a bunch of slouches either.
They've never had a quarterback. All right. So that's enough of that. That's cool. Like, let's think of some nostalgia questions for next week because these are kind of fun to debate and kind of chew some time up. But it is getting late now, and we got to ice some fools up. So I want to encourage everybody before we ice them fools up to subscribe to the show. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, wherever you get your podcast. go on to Spotify, go on to iTunes, and write a review and just say, man, these guys are super consistent, love listening, and being part of this community. That would really help us climb the rankings there, as well as subscribe and share. I cannot tell you how much it means. If you just put in one Facebook, on your Facebook feed, on your story, on Instagram, on Twitter, hey, just listen to this podcast last night. I think you guys would like it if you're Panther fans. That is, you would not believe how many people just need to hear about one. It's like piercing through. There's so much noise on the internet, right? There's just so much content. People need to find content that they want, and you can help us reach Panther fans looking for that Panther content.
And how about this? It's content that you can be a part of.
Yes.
You can be in the cat calls. You can be on the Friday free for all and literally come on and talk. You can. Hey, by the way, everyone in the chat room, for those that are listening, all the comments are going up on screen as we do the show. So literally everyone's opinion is a part of the show. Guys, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers before the start of the 2023 season, man. Help us do that. Be a friend, tell a friend. And look, we have people that come back to this podcast that aren't even fans of the Panthers. We get Bears fans and, all different kinds of fans that come and hang out, man. So just spread the word, spread the love, tell somebody about the C3 Panthers podcast, and help this thing grow past the moon, man. Please and thanks.
Oh, look at this. Mr. Lightning 20. I'm going to give you a shout out. He said, AJ McMurphy, sound familiar. Great show. Glad I found it by running into you. Yes, I know you, man. I've met you several times at AJ's. Thank you for tuning in. C3 Panthers podcast, where it's at. Now, look, this is the last segment of the show where we ice up somebody. It's our homage to Steve Smith. We tell somebody in the world to ice up, toughen up, to get it together. Everything. This is the one time that we give ourselves latitude to just kind of really step outside of football if we want. We can do anything. I've iced up 12-year-old kids in Oklahoma I've never met. We've got a lot to discuss. Anything is fair game. Cody, I gotta say, this is the list each week for ice up picks. Like, it's almost to the point of, like, how do I narrow it down to less than, like, 12?
Yeah.
I want to.
There's so many.
I just stumbled across this one on, like, late. Like, I wasn't even looking for an ice up pick at this point. I already had some lined up. This guy's Stephen King. First of all, he is a U.S. Congress 4th and 5th. He's from Iowa. Okay. His name is Steve King. I think this guy needs to be kicked out of the party, of whatever party. I'm sure he's in the. I'm guessing he's GOP. I mean, he has to be. And I don't care. I mean, I'm not even anti-Republican. I don't even care. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like he needs to be. The voters need to kick this guy out of politics. And the voters need to do it. His party members. This guy writes this. I mean, I don't even know how you can type this. I spent Juneteenth all day in the hot sun hoeing and pulling weeds, thinking about what it would have been like to have been a slave. At the end of the day, I thought about what it would be like to be an aborted baby. I got to see the sunrise and sunset.
Dude, just jerking himself.
I don't know if there can be. I don't know how you can be such a big dick. Like, it's such a. This is the reason that Americans believe America is in a decline. This guy right here. This might be the single worst thing I've ever heard that hasn't had to do with, like, something like over the like where it's so lewd about raping somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, where it's just like, this is vomit. This is mental vomit right here.
Yeah.
It is just taking gas. I don't even know what to say other than ice up. It's the worst thing. I can't even. It's like if anybody votes for this person, I wouldn't even let him walk, like do anything. And like if I saw him sitting in a restaurant, I would leave.
Right.
Straight
Like
up.
this is the worst fucking thing I've ever heard. And I would say the worst thing I've ever heard. I've heard a lot of bad things, but this has, first of all, your stupid ass who has been hoeing and pulling weeds. Well, where the fuck were you pulling weeds? In your own yard that you fucking own, dick face?
Yeah.
Not for
in his mansion, no doubt.
Yeah, well, I don't even care if it's a 1-bedroom apartment that you own. I don't give a shit if it's nothing, if it's a single wild. You aren't doing it. You are not owned by said persons. You can have property, you can have opportunity, you can have all of these different things. I hate to say this, as I'm pro-life, but I don't say hate to say I am pro-life because I'm a Catholic and I love baby. I don't want people. I'm not going to tell people what to do, but I'm also I hope and encourage people to try to love people. But this is one of those things right here where it's like, man, I bet your mama wish she would have had an abortion. That's some messed up shit, man. This is, and the fact I think it should be reported. I think this should be taken down. And the fact that it's still just climbing, fuck this dude. It's the worst thing I've ever heard. So this is my ice up. This is my ice up to this guy. Is I want to go to Iowa and kick him in the fucking nuts.
And to respond to it a little, part of the reasons why it's so disgusting is because it's just pandering.
Yes,
like he knows that conservatives like. That's right. Think of all
we hate Juneteenth. It should be a holiday.
Yeah. But
only holidays can be for white people.
Like,
if it's not about the white people,
it's literally a holiday celebrating the freedom of black people in America, and yet you find a moment to make it about you. Like you literally fulfill every negative white stereotype that there is.
Right.
Ice up. My ice up pick is riding Joe Biden.
It's not riding that's the problem. It's the stopping.
Check it out. He's like, it just falls right over, dude. And like people were trying to say that his foot was strapped in, and that way when he started to fall, he was like, "Oh no, fuck it, I can't," and just fell over, man. Like, dude,
you can't make it up.
Point where it's like, okay, and I feel this is kind of true with Trump as well. Like, yeah, everybody hates these presidents for whatever reason, but at the same time, they provide so much comedy that it's like, dude, it's so embarrassing. But at the same time, it's like we're watching these things happen, and it's our presidents that are embarrassing us the most.
Oh, yeah. Trump was out there talking about, he's calling Mike Pence, like we could ice him up for calling Mike Pence a coward this week for not supporting this. I used to make fun of George Bush when I was young for being poorly spoken.
He is mild.
Like, I know. I would bring him back. Yeah, like I mean, I was like, what was I thinking?
When they're saying George Bush thinks so much better than you, dude.
Can I give you this one too, though, to add to it? Did you see this one?
I thought this was hysterical.
No, hit the full screen.
Oh, you haven't seen this?
No, I haven't even seen this.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word.
Dude, you can't make that shit up.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him. America is a nation that can be defined.
It's honestly, it's to the point where it's like it doesn't matter what your political affiliations are. Like, these people are embarrassing. Joe Biden is embarrassing. And the fact that it's just on display for everyone. Oh, how about this? My final thing. Joe Biden went on Jimmy Kimmel And Jimmy Kimmel, dude, who thought it was a good idea to let Joe Biden even go on that show in front of like all the people that watch it? But Jimmy Kimmel is like having to finish his sentences for him. Dude, it's so embarrassing. It's a sad state of affairs. There's no answers, man. Everybody sucks. This is not a politics podcast. Everybody sucks. That's my endorsement. Everybody sucks to Joe Biden and everyone in all administrations. You all suck. I suck.
TK, you got something for us?
Yeah. I mean, so I was, I know there was something that you had put out there in the group chat about the Bitcoin, tumble that has happened and how it's impacted people. I'm going to go on the other side of this. I'm going to talk about Doge. There was a guy in Manhattan who's filed a lawsuit against Elon Musk because he's lost money over Dogecoin. His name's Keith Johnson. And the thought is basically that he's saying that there was a racketeering, pyramid scheme that Elon Musk drove the price up, and then it just decided to crash it, right? Which is such a ridiculous thought, because cryptocurrency, if you're not aware, was never created as investment opportunities, right? It wasn't like an investment, like you're going to turn a profit if you buy, like you're buying it as an alternate form of payment in a lot of ways, right? Is a currency. That's the whole point of it. And so the idea that a lawsuit can allege that he was encouraged to purchase Dogecoin and lost a ton of money, well, that's not true. That's not true at all. Because if you purchase the Dogecoin, then you have that equal amount of Dogecoin. It's not like you purchased it and somebody stole your Dogecoin, right? The difference is yes, the value of the Dogecoin was volatile, and every person on the face of the planet that was a financial expert would have told you, don't invest in that. It is volatile. It's not something that's a long-term investment process. Like if you're going to do it, just do it for the long term. It's not something that's going to be intended to be like intended for a financial gain. It's not the whole point of it. A lot of people utilized it that way. I did as well. But I'm not going to sue anybody if I were to take a loss. Luckily, I did not. I took a pretty major gain, but for the most part, like a lot of these people did lose. And the idea that you're going to sue somebody who's in the public supporting a cryptocurrency because you decided to invest and lost money is just asinine. That's like saying I'm going to sue, I'm going to sue, I don't know, maybe you could talk about the decline in anybody in the stocks right now because their company didn't do well through the process. Like, or I'm going to sue Apple because their stock plummeted after their battery stopped working on that one phone a while ago, right? It's not a logical approach here. And so if you're somebody who is thinking, because I lost and because of a decision I made, I'm going to go blame a billionaire and try to get my money back and then some, ice up, son.
There probably is something, though, to being critical about. Elon Musk he's starting to get on my nerves. He's starting to get on my nerves, like where it's just like, I don't give a shit anymore. But he does. So do you ever watch this stock? Have you ever seen Mad Money with Kramer? They call it the Kramer bump sometimes. And so like he'll recommend a stock and the next day
I just remember Jon Stewart eviscerating him.
Well, you see it go up like 2% the next day. And so some people have contended, and I don't think he's a disingenuous guy either, though. But like he'll talk a stock up and he had invested in it 2 days earlier, and then they take the bump and then they're out and you're on the top end. Elon Musk did get in trouble for tweeting some stuff about Tesla. Like the SEC was like, dude, you're the CEO, like the stock thing. So if he was invested in Doge and he has that influence, it's kind of like the Reddit, the Reddit bets, the Wall Street bets, how they could push, So, but I understand is like, hey, first of all, Dogecoin, most risky one of all of them.
Right.
It was actually a joke. And even Elon Musk said it was a joke.
Right. Well, the problem is like, it was never about investing in it for money. Like that's the part of it. Like these cryptocurrencies.
Well, it is though. Actually, it is.
People have used it that way. but it was
like
not
right
created
now,
that way.
Until we start using it as a measure of exchange, that's all it is.
Right, and that's what he's been trying to do. He actually implemented it as a way to be able to like, to be honest,
Buy
he
a
tried
Tesla.
everything he could to try to keep the value up there, right? And problem is that it was majorly driven by the people who own the currency, not by Elon Musk. That's why the price fell. It was because people saw it and sold it, and they were like, "Oh, I'm going to sell." So you can't blame a guy for being supportive of it, who is still supportive of it, and say that he was like, that part just doesn't make any sense. Like, a lot of people use that as a moment to invest, and I completely get it. I did too. But the argument that a billionaire made me buy this stock is one that is not going to be a logical one.
You need to be more wise in your investing. And also, did you see his transgender daughter is changing her name?
I know, I saw that.
Elon Musk. I love this. I love when I see, and I think the Amber Heard trial, all this is, I don't wish people shit. But it's like, man, y'all rich, influential, famous motherfuckers, your lives are just as fucked up as everybody else's.
Oh, for sure. But I also, I get the feeling that Elon Musk is not an easy person to be in a family with. You know what I mean?
Well, he is probably like Rain Man. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I only buy my underwear at Kmart or whatever type thing. All right. Ice up to, what's his name? Sue anyone?
Oh, gosh.
James
that's going to
Wood.
be, let me pull him back up here. His name is Johnson. Last name is Johnson. That's all that matters.
Big dick.
Yeah, but his name is Keith Johnson. Is that what it said?
Ice up Keith Johnson. Keith Johnson.
Yep, that's what it is. Do
right,
you guys want to bring up the amount of money that the sports figures have lost because they had their contracts in Bitcoin?
Oh man, this is kind of crazy. You know what though? I don't get. They're not worried about. I wouldn't.
I've also heard that this is a little bit misleading too. When it comes to Trevor.
Because that's just based on when they got it and if they've kept it all in. So Russell Okung would have gotten $6.5 million. This is not right because he got paid at $24,000. It was worth $24,000. This is not right. He has not lost 60. This is not an accurate thing. I bet I can remember Russell Okung got paid in Bitcoin. It was worth 23,000 Bitcoin, like dollars per Bitcoin, and it's only down to 20 right now.
But it was up at 60 though.
It was up a ton. So this must be peak to valley. I didn't realize so many people had gotten paid in Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, it was remember, it was all the rage during the pandemic.
Trevor Lawrence, that's the one they're looking at. But I think this is some ways just saying that these guys, I don't know, look, you don't lose till you sell. Remember that, folks. You don't lose till you sell. You sell your stocks now and you lost your money, then you lost your money. But you just wait. Like, if you need that money, I understand, then you got to sell. But like my little miniature stock account that I got, that's been, and I started in 2015 with $2,000. I got it up and then it's down. You know what I mean? But if I sell my stocks, then I lose. But if I just wait, then I win. That's it. That's the C3 Panthers podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. I do want to shout out somebody. I think C-Dog said leave his politics out of his sports podcast. You know, the only people that say that is when they hear a political view that's opposite of theirs. No one says that when someone says the same political view as you. And then they're like, oh, leave my, imagine. Yeah. So anyways, don't worry. We only do it actually, you know what? I don't even care, man. I'll talk about whatever I want to talk about. Thank you, C-Dog.
But also, we don't care who you like and who you don't, man.
Yeah.
Like whoever the hell you want.
Amen to that.
Dislike whoever the hell you want. We don't give a shit, truly. You know,
unless you like the Saints, get the fuck out of here.
Or the Falcons.
Yeah, if you like the Saints or the Falcons, fuck off. Later, we don't need you.
All right. My name's Tony Dunn. You can follow me on Twitter at @cat_Chronicles. Cody, we're gonna get after you.
Follow me on Twitter at Cody Lack, CODYLAC. I'm normally on there just starting shit, making fights, and making people angry.
And he
but
ain't even
also-
talking politics.
Yeah, right. Yeah, most of it is just football. So yeah, man, follow me on Twitter, and then at 7 p.m. on Friday, join the Friday free for all. Why don't you? That's your opportunity to be a part of the C3 Panthers podcast. Anyone's allowed to come on. I post the link to the StreamYard in the description. So if you want to come on and be a part of the show, you can absolutely do that. And that's it. That's all
TK.
Yeah, first you can find me on the socials at Codizzle Allen, pretty much all of them. If you guys want to go subscribe to my Only Panthers fan page, that'll be up and
sexy voiceovers to porn.
the voice that makes them moist, onlypanthersfans.com.
Nice.
And we should create that, by the way. And yeah, just come shoot me a follow on those TikTokies and the Twitters and the Instagrams.
Cody,
shit.
take us out of here, brother.
C3 Nation, until next time, keep pounding.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. You could turn $10 into $250. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/fan and use code FAN. That's code FAN at prizepicks.com/fan.
Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.